to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forum.
This is Parker. Go by Dr. Mantis Toboggan on forums.
MD, Dr. Mantis Toboggan, MD.
MD, that's right. Sorry, forgot I have to put my... Hey, I earned that medical degree.
Yeah. So, a quick question about that. MD means medical doctor, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, I mean, that just distinguishes that your PhD is in medicine, not in history.
I guess, yeah. Uh-huh. Doctor of medicine, yeah.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. Dr. Mantis Toboggan, MD. Oh, sorry.
All right. So it looks like announcements today. We are down to 32 probation episodes.
Whoop whoop. I am cruising right along.
If you miss next week because your appendix bursts on camera, then you're gonna go up to like 100. It's gonna be bad.
Wait. I get a demerit if my appendix bursts?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Well,
I mean, at 100, you might get a whole disagulation.
Oh, Jesus. That seems a little backwards.
Right.
I feel like in my youth, if a medical emergency called you away from something, it was usually forgiven, not also punished.
You weren't rewarded for a medical emergency, though.
Okay, yeah,
Your
I won't
parents
be.
just resented you.
You're right.
They're
I
like,
wouldn't
God,
be...
if this was 60 years ago, we could just let him die and have
You're right.
another kid.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay.
All right, Parker, what's next?
News.
News.
All right, so news today. We have some news. First off, we have the next MCP event, which will be like a local store event. It'll give you a cool kit, probably a different scenario called Separation Anxiety, featuring likely Carnage, the symbiotes in some way.
It will definitely involve the symbiotes.
Yeah. So we're not exactly sure what it's going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be we imagine that the plot of the scenario will have something to do with symbiotes taking over or trying to capture the symbiotes, bring them somewhere, or symbiotes gone wild. We don't know. But
I do have another thing. I believe that we have the official pricing of the Dormammu raid kit, which is $80.
So does that separate from Dormammu?
No, that's Dormammu and the 2 terrain pieces, and then
Okay.
I believe some cardboard.
Kind of like the Thanos box is the way it works.
Yes.
Cool.
You get the little Cheeto balls that are on sticks.
Yeah. Is that more or less than Thanos? I can't remember how much
Thanos was 65.
Okay.
Considering the volume of models, I think the Dormammu will be a better deal.
Mm-hmm. Also, he's humongous, like an actual plastic.
That's why it's a better deal,
Yeah.
but it's still expensive. I think most people won't buy him.
Yeah.
But if he's actually playable in game and he's effectively an $80 model, that's going to be kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they would just do the kit separate for like $40 and then do him for $40.
I think they just imagine they only lose money on that, right? If they don't attach it to something in the game.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There won't be as many people to buy it, but think how many people you'll sell that $40 kit to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's got to split the difference, right?
I think it's a gamble, right? It's like, do you imagine that people will shell out because it's a model in the game, and so you make it $80, or are you going to imagine that they're going to be hobbyists or people that are excited about running events in their game store, so they'll buy a copy for the game store or 2 copies for their game store, or buy one?
Well, I think the majority of the people that were going to buy the $80 version of Dormammu are going to buy everything anyway, right? They're just the completionists like us. Like they're just going to get everything,
and therefore they're making money, right?
There's probably about a third of the people that would have bought it that are just big Dormammu fans and don't give a crap about the game, and they probably wouldn't have bought the event kit.
Right.
And then I think there's more people that would not have bought the $80 version that would buy the Dormammu by himself.
I have a feeling, based upon no actual data whatsoever, that I have the feeling is yes. I think if they would have made 2 separate kits, they would sell. If they would have made 2 separate kits, they would have sold a lot more Dormammu models. I think that's true.
I just recently polled a collection of people, and 100% of them agreed with that statement.
That's true. Okay. You heard it here, folks.
Now,
Rock hard
100%
data.
of them are on this podcast.
rock hard data. No, you don't even look into it. There's no standard deviations. It's perfect data.
I recently watched a video explaining how people doctor numbers to like make their graphs look like what they want. And it's like they don't legally have to put, like when they do a bar graph and they're like, see, we're 30% ahead of the other people selling trucks. And it's like, well, they don't have to tell you that is the 95 to 100 percentile. And so you're 30% of them in that 5% bracket. And so it's actually only like 2% more. Yep. And you're like, that's misleading as fuck.
Yep. Because the nearest competitor has like half the price for...
Yeah, they have 92% satisfaction. You have 95%. So you just zoom in until the bars get real big, and then you're like, oh, okay. We'll just cut this 5% out. And you're like, look, we're way bigger.
Look how awesome we is.
Yeah, we're the best.
In other news, we got a Blade panel to play, and I'm really excited because here on the podcast, live, I am going to watch Brandon's face either contort with rage or go slowly into a meh based upon some of this data. And I'm really excited. I forbade him from looking at it because I have a feeling that he's going to be really upset. Let's find out. Let's find out here live if Brandon gets upset.
I don't know why, but every time you say Blade, it takes me back to that episode of The Community where she's dating the guy named Blade from the carnival. And then they're watching Blade while she's intentionally ignoring him. And he's like, can you stop saying the word Blade? It's the name of the movie we're watching, Jenna. It's the name of the main character. He's like, I know, but like, can we maybe just turn the movie off or watch a different movie? He's like, how dare you say that? Because they want to watch Blade. It's really funny.
It's
All
great.
Right. Tell us about Blade.
Okay, so first thing about Blade is, as you might imagine, we know he's going to have one range attack, a basic attack with his regular katanas, and they're likely going to cause bleed. They don't mention if it's going to be on a wild or just automatically bleeding. But what's important about bleed is his Spindor attack. His Spindor attack is a Strength 7 attack called Mystic Knight of the Dhampir, which is we had a conversation in the pre-ramble about how a Dhampir is, in Slavic folklore, a half vampire, half human, which is not something you invented for comic books. It was already there. And it hits a 7 dice, completely rerollable if your opponent already has bleed on them. So if you hit them with one of his regular attacks, then likely the Mystic Knight of the Dhampir is going to actually be rerolled with Strength 7. And then also he makes a medium advance afterwards.
Nice.
So
kind of similar to Drax on that one. Drax has some rerolls if they're bleeding. Good.
Right. And if the target doesn't have the bleed condition, Knight of the Dhampir puts it on, so it also causes bleed. So it looks like it's going to do bleed.
What? The Dhampir is going to do bleed?
Yep.
Weird.
Also, of course, going along with the vampire theme, he has an innate superpower called Vampiric Immortality. For each other character, that's friend and foe, so each other character on the board currently suffering the bleed condition in range 2 of him, he automatically gets 1 power and removes a damage.
When?
It says it's an innate superpower, so probably maybe at the start of his turn. It doesn't say.
So yeah, I would assume that's either at the start of his turn or the start of the activation phase.
Mm-hmm. So 1 power, 1 damage.
I guess it could be at the end of his turn, but I doubt it'd give power if it was at the end of his turn. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
It is. And lastly, they made him, it says actually, Blade has a leadership for the Midnight Suns. So they mention here that's not the leadership for the Midnight Suns, but one of them. Okay? So the Midnight Suns affiliation, he's got the leadership. And this is the part where I was excited to see your face. Okay? It's called Bump in the Night. Every member,
I like it so far.
Every member of the affiliation has the ability to spend 1 power during their activation to be placed within range 1 of their current position.
Okay.
That's it.
That's fine.
That's fine? Okay.
That's fine.
I was amazed.
What's broken about that?
A la Storm, right? We were everybody on the podcast was
within range of somebody else.
I know,
it's further than that.
I know, but it's once per. It's only once per round.
Does he also give everyone healing factor 2? Like we're not even talking about remotely similar things.
The reason why this felt like Storm to me is because we really appreciated Storm when she came out, but we had no idea how good it really was until we saw Storm with other characters like Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. I feel like Blade's another one of those that she seems excellent right now, but he could get even stronger, even more. What's the word? Exploitable any ability to move a model range 1 of their current position, you're talking about things with like large bases. That's a lot of space to cover.
Sure. No, I understand how far a range 1 place is. No, it's good, but it has to be at the start of their turn or just during their turn.
It says during their activation.
Okay.
Spend a power to be
I mean,
placed
it seems like a
range 1.
solid leadership. I mean, that seems competitive, and it's
Yeah.
going to have to be to play all these fucking idiot characters they have.
I love how much you hate these guys.
I only hate them because I know somebody that likes them.
Oh, really?
That's generally why I hate things.
Oh, okay.
Just ask me about Led Zeppelin.
How do you feel about Led Zeppelin?
Fucking hate them. But the ringtone on my phone is the Led Zeppelin song.
I was going to say.
I just hate them because I knew somebody that would never shut up about them, and so now I
Oh.
just can't enjoy it.
You had a super fan. My wife did that with The Fifth Element. I love the movie The Fifth Element. Like I like good, B sci-fi
And
movies.
you made other people hate it because you're such a doofus.
No, my wife. I was like, have you seen The Fifth Element? It's on Netflix or whatever. And she's like, I can't watch The Fifth Element. And I go, why? Because I had a boyfriend once that would only watch The Fifth Element, and I was like, geez, that sucks. Like, so she like. Same thing, right? Like, it doesn't matter that The Fifth Element's a quality movie that's a lot of fun to watch. She had it ruined by somebody who was too much of a fan of it. So yeah, I think I do that with songs. I play the same song over and over and over again. I'm not a big fan of. I don't do that for bands per se, but I do that for songs, and I think I probably ruin them for people who ride in the car with me. But
that's definitely me. Like, I have a playlist of like 8 songs I listen to like every other day, and it's been there for like 2 years. Like, I rarely change anything.
Yeah.
It's like my get up and go playlist. Like, I'll play it in the morning on my ride to work if I don't have a podcast I want to listen to.
Well, yeah, I think this superpower is super cool. It actually makes the Midnight
which
Suns
superpower?
the sorry, not superpower, the team affiliation. I think Blade
Stop
for the Midnight
saying Blade.
Suns. What?
Stop saying Blade.
Okay.
It's a trigger word. Every time you say Blade, you get a demerit.
Okay. Jeez, this is gonna be hard. I think he and the stuff. I think he screams 4-point character.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be a 4-point character.
Yeah, he screams.
I think they definitely wanted to make him like a centerpiece model. I mean, you just look at his figure and be like, he's supposed to be the centerpiece of the faction.
Yeah.
Who else is in the faction? Do we know?
I bet Strange will have the other one. New Strange.
You think the new Strange will be the other Midnight Suns?
Yeah.
And so it's probably gonna be him. Scarlet Witch will probably be in the affiliation, right?
Probably.
The new movie.
Yeah.
And then there's the chick that Strange comes with.
Clea.
Like his girlfriend.
Clea. Doc Voodoo.
Are they Doc Voodoo and then Hood?
No, Hood's bad guy. I don't think they'll be.
Well, that doesn't mean he won't be in the affiliation.
It's possible, but I doubt it. It'll be Moon Knight. It'll be Moon Knight, Blade.
Well, right, Moon Knight comes with Blade. Yeah.
Right. So it'll be Moon
You
Knight,
said
Blade.
it! There's hold on, we're up to 33.
I didn't say Blade. You said it.
Yeah, you said comes with Blade.
Oh Jesus. Moon Knight.
Who?
Blazer? Can I call him that?
Blazer? Taser? Laser? All these kind of azers.
Blaze, laser, blazer. Okay, so Moon Knight, Dampier. Oh, that's what I call
Dampier.
him. Dampier. Moon Knight, Dampier, Doc Strange, Clea, Doc Voodoo, and Scarlet Witch. I think is you're right. I think it'll be Scarlet Witch.
So you think it's going to be who for the leaderships?
I think the leaderships from Midnight Suns will be. I did not think it was going to be Blade, but it is now. Blade.
Oh, he said it again!
I did it again! I'm just cranking them up tonight. Okay. I think it'll be. You set me up there, didn't you?
I
You
did. It was a big setup.
I thought it was like.
Entrapment on the Blade!
You did it. You did. It was Dampier, and I think it'll be New Doc Strange, because he's the one who actually formed the Midnight Suns in the comics.
I thought you were going to accidentally escape it because you started talking about something else and you immediately circled back.
Nope. Okay.
All right. So that's the panel to play that Parker just did for
The Dampier.
I felt like you were about to finish my sentence,
I really, really did.
All right. What's next?
Moon Knight. We have his card. He is a solid 3-pointer, like we thought he would be. He has 3 points, movement medium. I think he's solid. 5 health on the front and back. He's got exactly the same on the front and back. He's identical.
Yeah, he's a typical flip card.
Yeah. 3 physical, 3 energy, 3 mystic. His bow staff is a range 2. Only rolls 4 dice. It has a weird stagger of crit, wild, and hit. But he can reroll any number of attack dice always. Really interesting basic attack. Range 2.
Well, yeah, it's
4 dice. I know, but range 2, 4 dice, always reroll. Do we? I don't
So,
know if we have another.
The big part
character
is
like
if
that.
we talk. We've talked about this on the. He was in panel play last week.
Mhm.
But his roll a die multiple personality thing. If he gets, I believe it's a hit or a wild, he gets
Well-
2 extra dice on his attacks.
Yeah. If it's a hit or a
So-
wild, yes.
Yeah, so potentially 6 dice with rerolls. So he's going to be kind of finky. On a block, he gets a power. On a skull, he gets nothing.
Mhm.
And then
A block or a blank. A block or a blank gets
yeah,
power.
and then on the critical, he gets to move first.
Yeah. Well, actually, it
and-
says he gets an additional action this turn that must be a move action. Doesn't say he has to
Yeah,
do
so
it
he can move
first.
after, and he has
Yeah.
stealth, so moving after is not terrible. So yeah, he's going to be an efficient 3-pointer. I think. I don't think he'll be crazy. He'll be solid. You'll definitely play him in all of the games you play Midnight Suns because he's a solid 3-point add-in.
I really
Just
like.
Go ahead. Just like I think Luke Cage is going to be a solid 3-point add-in in pretty much any affiliation he's in.
I also like. I really like Moon Knight's throwing crescents actually because they're range 4. Have rapid fire and he has stealth, so he can actually throwing crescent outside of stealth range, which I think is super cool. I think I actually he also gains 1 power for each of those, unlike a lot of other characters that their off attack doesn't gain them anything. So
The rapid fire being only on hits is not great, but it'd probably be a little strong if it wasn't. If you could just
Right.
do 4 attacks at potentially 4, does his +2 dice work on that too?
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So yeah, potentially 4 6-dice attacks would be a bit good, probably.
Hmm.
Certainly better than Cable.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy he has the potential. Multiple personalities is going to make him go up, but just basically, I think he's pretty cool. He also has Chosen Akanshu, which is definitely a niche ability, but it's good meta choice. If he
the defense against Mystic.
Right, so he spends 2 power. If he's being attacked by a Mystic attack, he adds 2 dice to his defense roll, and then he cannot be advanced, pushed, or placed. There are lots of Mystic attacks that do that, so just takes up your. I like that it is reactive, so you don't have to like turn it on before to like hedge your bets.
Yeah.
Like a lot of abilities in the game right now that stop you from being advanced, pushed, or placed.
It's pretty much just the tactics card, but yeah.
Right. Or like Vision, right? Vision can do stuff, but he has to like guess which one
He
it
can
is.
respond to the attack.
Right. He could respond for power. That's right.
Hmm.
So I like.
Which is exactly what this guy's doing.
Right. I like Moon Knight a lot. Actually, I think he's super simple, very efficient. I like it.
He's going to come down to the die rolls a lot. There'll be, I think, a handful of games that you will be really upset that you didn't get a decent roll at the right time because he's going to feel like a very subpar 3-point character if you get unlucky. Because if you actually think about it, most games come down to there's probably 3 turns of important combat, and if you just don't get what you need on the if you're already engaged with somebody and you're standing on a point, rolling a critical doesn't help you, and then getting an extra power probably doesn't help you. So you're really just going for like a 1 in 4 chance of getting the good one, which is a +2 dice.
I think if you only take it from multiple personalities, I think multiple personalities just icing because bow staff is a basic attack. Like you want to talk about a character that's going to get going to get value every turn. The fact that he re-rolls his basic attack, like by itself, is already
the reroll's
good.
nice, but you only have 4 dice to generate crits, and so
Right.
you're gonna have a smaller attack pool than most people will. And so re-rolling doesn't help you against some people who you can't re-roll your dice when targeting. And then also, how many dice you're going to want to re-roll out of 4? Like if you hit a skull, if you just hit a couple hits, yeah, rerolls are better generally on defense than offense because there's more failures on the die. Like the more non-successes, I guess technically failure is a skull, but
I agree, but when you talk about like 3-point characters in the game that have basic attacks, how many of them have rerolls? I think it's Drax if they're bleeding. Is that right? I think there's
basic attacks with rerolls.
A 3-point character with a basic attack with reroll. I think it's Drax
that rerolls all dice specifically.
Yeah, I think it's
some dice.
I think it's just Drax if you're bleeding. I think that's the only character that I can think of for 3 points that does that.
Yeah, but most of them don't have a 4 dice attack. I think 4 dice versus 5 dice is slightly better to the rerolls, but if it doesn't have any other stuff it does, that's not very helpful. Like, I would much rather have, obviously an attack that had Pierce with 5 dice, or pretty much any ability with 5 dice is better than 4 dice with rerolls. Because if you're only trying, all the rerolls is doing is getting you more damage, and if you wanted more damage, you wouldn't be playing, you'd be playing somebody that has, Pierce or something.
Mm-hmm.
like Proxima Midnight has a better attack. There's no question about that. Because she's
Sure.
got a 5 dice attack with Pierce, and she has a range 3 attack that places her,
Mhm.
and she has a range 4 attack that rolls 6 dice and does a bunch of bullshit. But he has more flexibility, which is nice.
Yeah.
No, I think he's a good 3-pointer. I just think that if you don't get the good rolls a couple times a game, you're going to run into the part where it's like, he could have probably been better if he was somebody else.
I see your point.
Yeah, so he's not broken, but he seems solid.
Well, I think releases should be solid, not broken. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would much
No, I
rather.
agree.
than
I think
release
this is
solid, not broken.
I haven't seen anything here that seems like way outside the norm, which is a good thing.
Mhm. Yep.
I think they've really dialed in where characters kind of need to be, because the only time we see anything really high or really low is when they're intentionally pushing something high or low. It's like, well, we don't want to risk this thing being broken, so we're going to make sure we aim low. We don't want to risk this. We don't want this thing to be not good, so we want to make sure it's like this is a central piece model. Like Magneto was clearly, we're pushing to see how hard we can make this without breaking it.
Mhm.
All right, so that's Moon Knight.
That's news.
Cool. All right, so moving into smaller topics, we have hobby projects. I recently got all my train back from John, who's been commission painting it, and so now I'm sealing all of it, and I'm gonna make sure it's all magnetized, so I have more train to bring up to the store.
Ooh, I like
Yep.
that.
And then Parker has abandoned me for assembling models on Sundays because he's a jerk.
I did it one time. I had a great. One time was it had to happen, but I'm gonna be back next Sunday if my appendix is not burst or something. We'll find out.
Well, that's tomorrow. Like, you have several days.
That's
You'll
true.
be fine.
That's true.
Yeah.
I should
Staple
probably.
that
I,
shit
I
up.
should be
Let's
able to
go.
recover from then. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah, you need to get hold of Dave. Dave's gonna come over too.
Yeah, I will.
That'd be great.
I'm
Cool.
excited.
So also working on stuff. I haven't even finished my apartment building. I've been so busy. I've had no fucking
Aw.
free time.
You were so giddy with that apartment
Yeah.
building that night. You were just look at this. It's a wall. Look how many things
It's
are on
so
this
cool.
wall.
I was very excited. Once I decided I was going to build Patty's Pub, I got
Uh-huh.
very excited.
Yeah.
I went from like pleased to very excited.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, now I got to go find somewhere to print off like decals for Patty's Pub and put them in the windows. It's gonna be great.
You get your ice cold coolers in the bar.
So what are you working on?
I'm just still assembling everything. I think I'm getting really close. I think my next assembly will be Omega Red after our conversation about the next thing I'm excited to play in the game. I think I'm going to assemble Omega Red, find out if he's worth a darn, and then probably Jean, because I have this weird feeling I'm going to play X-Men at some point. I don't know if I ever actually will because I don't know. But
They seem bad.
yeah, I mean Storm seems good, but Storm without X-Men is the best way to play it.
Yeah.
Which is better.
The best way to play X-Men is play as few X-Men as possible.
Yes.
The most
How-
X-Men you
How
like.
can I possibly get down to the number of X-Men to exactly the minimum? If they ever put a 2-point X-Men, everything's just going to go amazing because they can do whatever
Yeah.
they want.
We see a 2-point Rogue Agent, and X-Men will be complete.
Yeah.
Domino, Storm, and whoever the fuck costs 2 points.
Who cares? Who cares? This. Anyway.
Ooh, what if we're going about this the wrong way? What if you just need to be playing 15 points with Thanos, Storm, and Domino?
Yeah. You could do. I was gonna say. I hope the 2-point. I hope the 2-point free agent is like. I really want it to be like Jarvis, the Butler. I really want it to be something. I was trying to think earlier the other day of who I want to be a 2-point free agent. I think it's got to be somebody like Herbie from the Fantastic Four. It's got to be somebody really like a side character. It's got to be the Butler, right? It's got to be something.
I could see like Agent Coulson being like a 1-point add-on.
There you go. Agent Coulson. I think Coulson. I was also trying to think of somebody who actually does like flip-flop back and forth. Like they did a pretty good job so far of picking actual mercenary type characters to be the free agents, who've actually been on both sides. I was trying to think of somebody who would actually fit that bill, who wouldn't be a 4-point character. That's the other problem.
Oh yeah, I could see them doing like a Rogue Agent Loki at some point now.
That's
I think
true.
That could be cool.
They definitely
But,
could do that.
he'd be at least 4 points.
Yeah. That's the problem. All the cool ones are like centerpiece antiheroes, right?
Yeah, it's almost like they don't want you to have like a bunch of really good rogue agents that work for every faction for 2 points. It's weird.
Probably not a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want there to be like a nemesis in this game, and Nemesis is a reference to City Heroes, the video game. But there was this like super like world dominant. It was basically like Red Skull or MODOK, but he was just like this complete doofus. And so he always had his hands in everything in an attempt that any of the plans would work. And so he'd always like show up like, my genius plan is foiled again. He's like a Scooby-Doo villain, and he's like run off. It was really fun. But anyway, yeah, I don't know who you should assemble next, but you should hurry up and get everything put together. Oh, did you hear there was another delay?
Delay in what?
I guess we should have covered this in news. The stuff was delayed.
The Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah.
You're not. You're
Well,
messing with me. You're messing
Actually,
with me.
I am not messing with you. This
You're-
100% happened.
You're messing with me. My Spider-Man is not late. He's coming.
Well, it's not supposed to be here till Friday, but I did find out that it has been delayed. But there is some good news, a silver lining in this, because there was the 3 things that were supposed to come out, and only 2 of them got delayed. 'Cause
I
it
think you're
was-
BSing.
I'm not. I'm 100% serious. This actually happened. I swear. So it's Black Cat and Spider-Man, Mysterio and Carnage, and then Kraven and Lizard. And so those were the 3 box sets supposed to come out this Friday, which is the 23rd.
Mhm.
But 2 of them got delayed. Parker, would you like to guess which one did not get delayed?
Lizard, Craven.
We have a winner, everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Lizard and Kraven will be here. And I wanted to point out to everybody that this is not Fearful Symmetry, because they're not coming out at the same time. And it's been delayed unevenly amongst these releases, and it's very annoying.
So, no word of why? Just a production thing or a shipping thing?
I mean, they were delayed, which is why they were supposed to come out on Friday, but they apparently have been delayed again.
Cheesy Pete's. Did they
I'm delayed, I'm released, I'm delayed again.
but they didn't say when. Just not like a month. Is it a month?
No, if we had a release date, it wouldn't be delayed, it would be pushed back.
Ah, Jesus.
It's indefinite.
I'm not gonna lie. I was really looking forward. Well, actually, this is maybe a blessing in disguise for me because I need to learn how to play one thing in this game. And as soon as Spider-Man came out, I was not going to do anything except play the Amazing Spider-Man, either in Defenders or in Spider in what's the name of the faction? Spider People.
Web Warriors.
Web
Jesus
Warriors.
Christ. All right, moving on. So that was hobby projects. Currently playing. I've still been playing my draft league list, which is Black Order and Cabal, but all these losers keep not playing their draft lists.
I played one game against you with my draft list. I enjoyed it.
That's true.
And I played, and I will say that the only game I played that deviated from the draft list, I still played all the models in my draft list, just changed out the nonsense ones that didn't make any sense. And what's funny is I don't even know if I played any of the. I don't know if I
believe you did. I think you played everyone that you drafted, which made it even dumber that you deviated from your draft list to play the draft list.
I didn't even change. I didn't change a tactics card. So it's pretty much the same thing. I just I wanted to look at. I'm excited to play criminals. That's what I drafted. And when Jeremy said, he didn't really want to do a league game, draft league, that I said, okay, cool. Let me tweak this to see if I can make better options. What would I do with criminals if I had better options? As it turns out, I went with the options that I drafted, which is probably means I have an okay draft. But I enjoyed it. I really liked playing criminals, by the way.
Yep, criminals look pretty good.
I liked it because they were I love scenario play in War Machine. I really enjoyed scenario play in War Machine because that's not the way most people played War Machine. Even though the game was definitely you could definitely win the game one scenario. That's not the way most people played. There was very focused on tradition.
So much going on in War Machine that you had to get so many reps before things became like muscle memory.
Uh-huh.
And so knowing how far you could push things.
Right.
Like knowing that it's like, I'm just going to run and stand here. Your turn. And they're like, but I'll attack you. It's like, I am aware of that.
Yeah.
And like the concept of jamming, which is you would run your models past the point and create a barrier of your own bodies.
Yep.
To hold them off. And you literally just run to the edge of the zone, stand on the edge of it, and they would have to kill you to get in.
Right.
But it didn't work the way you would assume because they would have to move up and then kill you, and so then their guys would be blocking their way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to kill them really efficiently to leave holes for yourself to get in. And it's just these really odd situations.
Right.
And measuring out, knowing how far your models could move, because there's an ability in the game where one of your big robots could do a trample, which allowed them to move through people. And so you would measure out how far they could get with their trample. You would put a dead spot guy there, and you would just basically be like, all right, I'm going to put something here that you can't trample, and then backfill it with other stuff. And so you can't like get through me. It was really interesting.
And that kind of play was a lot of fun. It was very entertaining for me. And you could go ham on that, right? Like you could go straight in on that, and you could build a whole list to just do that. And so I think that's what like Criminals feels like to me, is they feel like the ham version of Scenario War Machine, which is I'm going to play models that on purpose the only thing they're going to do is stick around longer than you. They can put a dent in you if they want to, but really they're just there to win on scenario and to make it very difficult for you to do anything else. The game I played against Jeremy that went very well for me went well because he picked a really horrible scenario. He picked what's the name of it? It's the one where you roll dice, and if you have the majority of points, then you are rewarded.
It's Deadly Meteors Mutate Civilians.
That's it. Yeah, he picked that one thinking that would be a good idea, and then he just botched 2 rolls, and I made 1 roll, and that was it. Like the game was over.
Yeah. You got your insurmountable lead, which was like 3 points.
Right.
And with Criminals, that's enough.
Yep. Also, Deadpool. I loved the idea of Deadpool in Criminals. He was amazing, a superstar. He hung out with MODOK and Doctor Strange in the middle of the board to just hold the center point basically the entire game. He got knocked to his backside, flippantly, right, just like a errant backhand. But he just stayed there, being an asshole, and he ended up doing a lot. He got a couple spike rolls too, but he just stood there, really difficult to take down. He was awesome, a superstar, because they had to deal with him because he kind of just the whole game. It was and they couldn't move him as easily as they wanted to. Strange was the only person who could move him. MODOK couldn't move him around, so it was a lot of fun. Deadpool was super super duper strong in Criminals. If you have not yet put Deadpool in Criminals, do so. That's what I learned. Basically every Criminals list for mine now starts with Kingpin, Deadpool, other stuff. But yeah,
cool. Alrighty, let's move on. We're going to enter our main topic today, which is basically we're going to talk about dual or single faction lists and basically what Parker thinks about them. So Parker, why don't you lead us into this one?
Okay.
You were really passionate in the preamble.
Okay, well, we have talked a lot in this podcast and in person about you bring 2 lists to the table. Do you ever actually play the second list, right? Quote unquote. You usually bring 1 list that's your primary focus, and then there's like a secondary option. And I think the best, most tactical, flexible version of the game makes logical sense would be where both of your lists are definitely designed to do different things or cover each other's weaknesses or both. That'd be great, right? It'd be really good list construction. But what I have seen in this game so far, based upon what you guys have talked about and like playing currently, what you were talking about your opponents, what I've seen when I go to game stores, when I build myself, is that doesn't seem to happen very much in MCP. In a game that is designed to be multiple factions and constantly allow you to do multiple factions, some factions even seem to allow you to do that better, like Criminals and Cabal, for example, where they have a lot of overlap. You just don't do it. You actually don't switch over. You almost always play the one faction you came to play, and your entire list construction and your strategy, your tactics are all designed around that. I just haven't seen anybody make use of the dual faction option. I haven't seen it happen in front of me, and I haven't heard about it either, unless you can enlighten me and tell me in times when you've purposely designed it and you used it. I just haven't seen that happen in this game.
I would love to.
Yeah.
All right. I will admit that most of the time when I do play a dual faction list, I do usually end up playing one over the other. I mean, but that's kind of the point going in. Like usually when you build a dual faction list, you have a preference, right? That's pretty much always true. And I'm going to use the example of something that we all know about, which was the list we built on the podcast, which was Web Warriors and Wakandans. Mm-hmm. It was the WWW list.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was primarily Web Warriors was the intent, but there was a lot of times playing against Jeremy that I ended up doing Wakandans because it worked better at the specific point total, and it would work better against what Jeremy was playing at the time. Because if they ever bring like someone who is really hard to push, like a MODOK, for example, he's just too big for a lot of the Web Warrior effects to push him. So I would have to find an answer for that. and so I would play Wakandans in those games, and I felt that they were a really good synergy to play with each other.
No, that I feel like I hear that, but can't you just drop Black Panther or Shuri or both to deal with the MODOK? Or do you feel like you actually needed to switch to the entire other faction so that you could get both on the board?
At the point totals we were running at, that wasn't a very good option, because if you drop too many of the Web Warriors, it kind of falls apart. It's not like X-Men where you're incentivized to not play the models because they suck. Just for clarity, it's because they suck.
It's interesting. So what I imagine then is it almost sounds like you're saying that dual factioning may be just faction specific, and I haven't seen people play a lot of the factions that like dual factioning. For example, like X-Men may be a good example of a single faction kind of list construction, because you're bringing the 3 X-Men, the cheapest ones, Beast, Domino, Storm, and then everything else that you're putting in your list is just the modules that go into that, because Storm's leadership is so strong and the other 2 models are effective enough that you're just going to create these different modules to make your X-Men team really good on the table doing the thing you want to do. Am I right that maybe that's a good idea? Would you?
I know that's something that Jeremy had done, is he played basically X-Men with like Magneto and a couple other really big models, but it was possible for the list to shift into Brotherhood because Magneto was already in the list, and it's so easy to build a Brotherhood list once you have Magneto in.
He's half the list usually, right? Or nearly half.
Sure,
the list.
yeah, he's a good chunk of the list, and it's very easy to find one other Brotherhood character, because you can play 3-character Brotherhood really easily, because you just 10 points of your list is Sabretooth and Magneto, which is solid, and then you just bring in one other big character, like, oh look, I found a 15-point Gamma Wave list. It's Magneto, MODOK, and Sabretooth. What would you like to do? And you're like, shit, like I do not want to play this. But I don't think it's as much on your side, especially for stuff like that. Like, obviously, you're building multiple options there, and that's more scenario dependent on like the multiple options there. But I think a lot of it is supposed to be matchup dependent. I think a lot of people in our meta, because it's basically myself and Jeremy play most of the games, but we play a lot of other people other than just each other. But so most of those games is we've played 200 games versus somebody who's played 10. And so we know the matchups and they don't, which is a lot of the time, if you're seeing people not like go to their second option, I think it's probably because they don't have the reps to know what's a good matchup and what's not. But I think if you are doing a dual faction list and you don't know what's supposed to tip you one way or the other, I think about half the time it's going to be the scenario, and the other half the time it's going to be what your opponent brought.
Well, let me give you a good example then, or maybe you could tell me if this is a good example of like when dual factioning doesn't work. I felt like this was. I don't even talk about this. I was list building for Criminals, and I really like the idea of Sabretooth in Criminals. I just like it, even though he's not a criminal, and Deadpool, for the reasons we already talked about earlier in the cast. So, but since Deadpool and Sabretooth were already in the list, I put the Criminals in there. I was like, well, if I had like 2 slots left over when I was list building. I was like, if I put Cable in here, I could play X-Force. And I looked at it for a second and I go, when would I ever play X-Force?
Well, an example for that is I think that's just not a good pairing. And the reason I would say that is because in Criminals, you're pretty much heavily devoting yourself to winning on scenario. So a lot of your tactics cards are going to be devoted to winning on scenario. A lot of your characters are going to be centered around, like breaking up and staying on points and fighting for those points. And I don't think X-Force does that. X-Force is supposed to be more of an assassination style list, where they kind of take you apart over the course of 3 turns. It's like, well, I'm just going to find someone, like whatever your problem model is, and find a way to get him dead. Then I'm going to move on to the next guy. And that's just not what Criminals do. And it might be possible to get everything you want in those 2, but I think you'll have to make enough sacrifices in your list that either one of your options is going to be so weak that you'll never play it, or both of your options will be noticeably dragged down by the weight of the other.
That's exactly the conclusion I came to, which is,
well,
like,
I think
this
that's
is
a problem
idea
with those 2 pairings. Yeah, like you wouldn't want to pair Avengers and Cabal together, right? Like that just doesn't make sense because each of them eat up so many slots that you wouldn't have anything left. But there's no overlap.
But I was giving you an example of something that I was trying to do that I found overlap, right? Like as I was building,
but is 2 character slots overlap? And those two characters aren't even affiliated with the other faction. They're
Exactly.
just drop-ins.
Exactly.
So there's
they're really
no
strong.
overlap.
Well, there's really strong drop-ins that I had like extreme healing in there. Like I was planning on playing Deadpool or Sabretooth. Well, almost always Deadpool, and usually Sabretooth, and if I could both, almost all the time. So I looked at that going, well, if I'm going to functionally play Deadpool and Sabretooth and then some other things around them, then I wondered, okay, since they're both in the same faction, could dropping the leader in here do any harm? And the answer, I couldn't come up with a good answer why not, if it did any harm. Other than that, I would never play Cable. It was just a dead spot.
Sure. Well, specifically when it comes to X-Force, they're kind of the opposite of X-Men. You want to play their characters, but I don't know that anyone wants to play their affiliation.
Exactly. I hear you.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so you've got two random mercenary drop-ins that have no affiliation to criminals. Mm-hmm. These are luxury models. You're only taking them because you have extra space.
Yes, you need to find a way to take.
But then the logic train you're trying to form here is, let's add in 3 more characters that I just need to find space for, and that don't actually synergize with criminals at all. They're just following the 2 okay mercenaries I had, and then I also need to find space for cards for them and different missions, because my criminal missions are not what my X-Force is going to be wanting.
Right.
So I'm saying that there's almost no synergy between these factions, which is why it wasn't working. Not because X-Force is worse than criminals.
No, I wasn't making that argument. I guess this is the original thing that I started.
I would make that argument.
Yeah, the original thing I started with was this game gives you the option to do it, right? Like you could put a 10-character roster together that could play criminals and X-Force. It can be done, and you can play both in a non-terrible way. However, it's not optimal. Like, we can both agree, not optimal. So, if that's true, is dual factioning actually a very small, very niche part of this game, where you actually don't usually actually dual faction, because it usually creates anti-synergies or a lack of resources because they only made 8 tactic slots, right? You only get to bring 6 scenarios. You can't. It is difficult to make a dual faction list that's actually going to utilize everything. We've talked about it before, how Wakandans and Avengers, the Avengers are changing a little bit now with Sam Wilson, but pre-Sam Wilson, Wakandans and Avengers were usually a good second faction because they usually only took up 1 tactic slot, so that you're not taxing your list that way when you're constructing. I guess what I'm saying is, the more I learn about this game, the more I think that I may not ever play dual faction. It just may never happen for me. I may only play single faction.
I don't think that's my conclusion. I think that it's specifically the thing that you recently tried to do did not work for separate reasons than just the game itself. I think dual faction is fine, and I found a lot of rewarding matchups with dual faction rosters. Now, I think as the game continues, that's become slightly less common over time, just because of the tactics card and model bloat. You're going to be less incentivized to find a second option, because whichever faction we're talking about is going to have so many options that's just going to be flexible enough to do both. And so I think that's the only reason the dual factions are going to start going away, not because they're not optimal. I don't think that slamming any 2 things together just because they share a couple characters that you want to play with is necessarily a good thing. There's a lot more that goes into it. Like, you need actual character synergies. You need actual, like tactics card duplication. You need stuff like that. You also need to find 2 factions that are not greedy on slots. Like Web Warriors and Wakandans both have a very small roster. They both have similar tactics. They're both like a fight when we want to scenario, when we want to style faction. They're both kind of skirmisher based. And so they want to move around and then pick their spots. Both of them play very similarly, but also you don't need to run Storm if you can, but you don't need to. And there's only like the 4 or 5 Web Warriors really, so like you can just easily marry the 2 lists together.
I think your point of slowly the game may be more and more difficult to make an argument for your list becoming a dual faction as the game begins to expand. A good example is we were talking last week about a Cabal list that I'm excited to try very soon, which is not so much, it's not dual faction, but it's definitely dual style, because they have Sin and they have Red Skull now, and since Red Skull really well, he runs a Tower of Power list very well with just like MODOK, Red Skull, Magneto, like those three are great, and so you can run that, and that gives you 7 slots left over to make your cool mob list run Sin, right, where you're running a lot of models that are resilient to damage and constantly coming back at your face and making disrupting your scenario plans and also winning. That you don't even have to leave the faction. You can play 2 completely different styles of play, and your Dark Reign is going to work for both, right? You're going to be able to do 1,000 small cuts with Dark Reign if you're playing Sin, or just big monster hits from MODOK if you're playing Red Skull. I think that's going to keep happening more and more. I wonder, again, I'll say it one more time, was this game like this game a dual faction game? Is this game about making dual factions? Is that like a goal you should have when you're like getting ready to play this game? I don't know if it is, because they even seem to be moving away from it. When it was already kind of difficult, now they're moving even further away from it.
Well, I think once competitive play kind of starts shaking itself out, I think dual faction is going to be really popular, because there's going to be the once the meta kind of resolves itself, there's going to be what most people think is like the best 2 factions, and then there's going to be the faction that's good against them. And so that's kind of going to be the triangle of power. And so you're going to want to have the ability to counter as many of them as possible. And so I think basically we'll get to the point where factions are somewhat solved. And it's like, all right, well, if you're playing Avengers, this is the best Avengers list. This is the best Cabal list. This is the best Wakanda list. And so it's like, all right, well, now that we know what the best things are, we can condense it down to as small of a package as possible, because we know what we need. Like if you play Brotherhood, well, I don't need Whims of Chaos. I don't need Can I Borrow That? I don't need Difficult to Please. I need Magnetic Refraction, and I need No More Mutants. And so it's now a 2-card restriction to play Brotherhood, not 5. And so you can get those numbers down once you've played enough games against the field to know what's necessary and what's a luxury. And so once you've condensed those factions, I think it'll be a lot more popular to take another condensed faction and kind of mash them together.
I want to say that again, I would agree. If this game slowed down to a release every 4 to 6 months, I think we would see that. But I don't know if there's ever going to be a meta you can rely upon in this game, because the game expands. They add a new faction. Even though they don't add a new faction, I was going to say they add a new faction about every 4 to 6 months, but since they add new characters every month, and some of them are very impactful, I don't know if that'd be hard to tell if there's a release where there's nothing impactful happened in it. But since there's constant shift, since the game is so extremely dynamic, and players are usually just trying to put their feet underneath them, that makes it, again, hard to make a meta decision. Like, I'm going to build a list that does this. I can see the rock, paper, scissors in list building, and I'm going to make a dual faction list that takes the best advantage of that rock, paper, scissors observation. How do you make that when the game moves so fast? This is not, by the way, I'm not bashing the game.
I know. I'm just saying the game doesn't move that fast. I think that's a perspective thing. And that's because everyone's just playing casual pickup games, and people aren't playing like, well, I'm going to actually try and win now. What's my best list? What's the list I'm best at playing? What's my favorite faction that I've gotten the most games with? And because people are just constantly in a state of, let's play the new stuff. They're not going to the game store like, well, I need to crush people. I need to win. I want to get first place. They're going to the game store like, oh, look at these cool new models I bought. I want to get them on the table, and which is a fine mindset to have, and I don't think that will go away. But I'm talking about like competitive play, where it's like, okay, when we're talking about like what is the meta, well, we're talking about the proven stuff. And so if you're going to take a new faction to a tournament and try and win a tournament with the new stuff, you're kind of, it's a crapshoot, because you have no experience with them. You don't know how they play against the field, but your opponent doesn't know either. And so you're kind of just taking the coin flip, except he's got 20, 30, 100 games with his list, and you've played 3. Right. It's like, well, even if your models are supposed to beat his, he's probably still going to win just because he's not going to mess up.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm talking about. That's where I think dual faction list is going to be, where it's really going to have its root and its power base. I don't think if you're just going to the store to play the new models, then yeah, obviously you should not play dual affiliation because you already know what you're doing. Like, you're trying to play new stuff. If you're trying to play new stuff, just jam as much in there as you can and see what sticks.
Yeah, I guess. And this goes back, to, in my experience, what I've seen, and since you're describing very well what I've seen, that's one of the reasons why I haven't seen dual factioning be a thing, is because a lot of the people I'm playing against, the people we're talking about, usually they're not playing their 5th game with a list. They're playing their first game with the new models. So I see your point. And man, I really want to do that. I really, really want to play a game with the new models, like because I buy them all. I really want to do it.
Well, that's fine. Like it's fine to be excited about new stuff. You should be excited about new stuff, and you should want to play them.
Mm-hmm.
But that one day a month there's a tournament, like, are you going to take the models that came out the day before, or are you going to take your list that you know how to win with?
I think also,
now, obviously for you that's a trap because you don't know how to win with any list. But I'm talking about like somebody who plays the game.
I was actually going to say specifically about me that actually is interesting because some people, I love tournament games. I love tournaments, but the reason I love tournaments is I get 3 games in or 4 games in or maybe 5 games in
a day.
A day because I can't devote myself to playing. I can't play 4 games a week like I used to, and I used to love to do that. I that doesn't happen, and so I love it when I can play a tournament because it means I'm going to get games in. And so I used to look at tournaments like my ability to exercise what I had already learned. Now I look at tournaments as a cram session, as a let me get as much of a frequency with this list as I can, just to see what the hell it does. I learn more in tournaments now than I ever used to, but that's just kind of the change of my lifestyle, the change of what goes on outside of the game. So, which again means I'm probably not dual factioning. I'm probably just playing one thing trying to get it, even at the tournament. But maybe I feel like that's one of the things, as the more I think about this, the more I realize that as much as I want to dual faction, it might be something I do after I play each faction, 5 games of each faction, and then I start to look at dual factioning. That probably is going to be how it works.
I think that's a good conclusion. Is you shouldn't be trying to do the dual faction until you know what you're doing with both factions. Like you shouldn't be experimenting as a dual affiliation. You should be doing that like to polish it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, are we done with this topic? Are you ready to move on?
Yeah. I am satisfied, and I like the conclusion.
All right. We're going to move into our next topic today, which is going to be game etiquette. What is okay and not okay to say to your opponent at the game store? We're bringing this up because not to name names, but someone on this podcast, not myself, was caught talking trash to a local customer.
Why are you perpetuating this rumor? I do not understand. You made up the rumor.
I'm just reading what was posted in the chat, Parker. That's all I'm doing.
What are you talking about?
And what's posted in the chat here is...
Hi, you.
I believe it here. It says, John can't hang with my stuff. I'm the best there is. And I can't believe he thinks he's on the same level as me. I'm on a podcast. That's what is written here.
Where are you? What are you looking at? I have no idea.
Look at the text. Maybe you shouldn't say these things if you don't want them to be read online.
Screenshotter didn't happen. I don't know what you were talking about.
Parker, as I said, I don't want to betray confidences. I don't want to name names, so I can't release this to the public.
By the way, I loved it when I read that, by the way, earlier today when John messaged everybody in our league to say, apparently Parker's been talking smack about me. And the first thing I thought was that's hilarious. The number of I can't remember a time when I talked smack about another miniatures game player.
Oh,
I've had
I
people
can tell you, and immediately
things.
be like, "Oh shit, I did do that."
I have commented about some people's mediocrity, but only because.
How about this? I'm going to send you a message.
Okay.
And
I can't remember
go ahead and read that message, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I did say bad things."
I was
about
thinking.
That guy.
Well, no. I didn't say bad things about him, like behind his back.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I'm mostly okay. Thank you.
You're mostly agreeing on what other people said about him.
Yeah, because the guy struggles, and that's what I agree with. The guy struggles, and to me, it's never been something that he's never once offended me or made me feel bad for playing him or anything. It's just that he struggles with the game. Where was I? Oh, so because I take this high road always, I I loved it. As soon as I saw it, like, this is awesome.
Well, I can tell
think
you,
it's
I was
great.
actually there when this happened, and someone at the store explained to him that you had been talking trash behind his back. And he was immediately like, well, I'd like to see him to be here to back up all this trash talk. I said, I agree. I also wish he was here to back up all this.
I feel like the person in your story, in your narrative, is actually you. I feel like that.
What? Parker, we just agreed earlier we wouldn't name names.
That's right.
This is uncalled shot taking here. This is why you get called out for shit talking people.
I don't
Look
know
at
why.
this slander you just laid at my feet here.
I'm always just going straight to the wall on people. That's what it
I
is.
know. Like, you just called me out online for something you have no proof I did.
Yeah. Ugh.
All right. So we're gonna move on to our next topic, which is gonna be good.
Okay.
So today we came up with what we think is the name of the topic, I guess, kind of explains itself. Alter egos. ... Who is the baddest and the best?
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to explain to you what we think are the 3 best and worst alter egos in the game, and then explain our reasoning.
Yep.
All right. So I guess I'll go first.
You go ahead.
All right. So this is probably going to be a popular choice today. All right. Go ahead, Parker.
Are we going like back and forth? Is it like one each?
Yes, we'll do our normal back and forth.
Okay. So you're gonna go, what are you starting with, good or bad?
I'm starting with the bads.
Okay.
And so I think the first one's going to get duplicated. I think we both picked this one for obvious reasons. It is just simply the laziest bullshit I've ever seen.
Okay.
Blackagar Boltagon. Making something Pig Latin doesn't change the name. And the fact that his given name was Blackagar Boltagon, and then he chose his name was Black Bolt. That's like saying Spider-Gar Manadude is his given name, and he just decided to fight as Spider-Man. Like, no shit, really? He also changed his fucking name at the age of 6.
Spider-Gar Manadude.
No one would ever allow this to happen. Like in what official administrative office did you go? It's like, yeah, I'm naming my child Blackagar Boltagon, and they don't call social services. Like, there's no world.
I actually have so a lot of people might immediately go, but he's an inhuman, right? He's completely removed from culture.
He wasn't an inhuman until after he was born.
No, they're all Inhumans. They have the ability.
Inhumans, but they haven't gone through Terrigenesis. Sure.
Yeah. So they're in a completely different society, so a totally different naming nomenclature and all that. That makes perfect sense. However, there is a precedent in the Marvel Universe and in this game for weird names that become your superhero name, a la Thanos, Medusa. Not Medusa. Sorry, Thanos. Not Medusa. Thanos, Gamora.
Is just his name. He's an alien named Thanos.
Gamora. Black Dwarf, Groot.
No. Yeah, but
what
that's
I'm saying
not
is
the same thing. Again, they're not named Manadude, and then they went by Man. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I'm agreeing with you. It's dumb. It's dumb that even in their culture, where they name people ridiculous names, that for some reason they would take Blackagar Boltagon and shorten it to Black Bolt is just stupid. By the way, he has a sister-in-law, Crystal. Her name is Crystal Amaquellan, is her full name, and they just call her Crystal.
Yeah, her name is Crystal, and her hero name is Crystal.
Right.
Yeah, now Medusalith is also pretty dumb.
That's also super dumb, and I don't understand. I don't understand how Inhuman naming nomenclature, like even when you go to the ones that aren't like in this game, but they exist in the comic books, they're all just their names. Like,
Parker, just real quick, did you choose Blackagar on your list?
He's on my list, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna respectfully change mine then to Medusa, because what the fuck is her name?
Medusalith
Amaquellan Boltagon is definitely worse.
The fact that Inhumans, since you picked Blackagar, I was going to do that for mine, but we can both say our bads are the ruling.
Yeah,
ruling
whichever one you're choosing, I'm choosing the other one because, dear God, they both need to be on a list.
The reason why I put them immediately on there, I go, why did she hyphenate her name?
Yeah,
why is that like acceptable in their society? And her name was Medusalith, and so they call her Medusa.
Conveniently, she got, when she went through Terrigenesis, she got hair abilities.
Oh.
Like, oh my god. Like, come on.
Also, Black Bolt did not get black abilities or bolt abilities.
No, that's what I was actually saying. Bolt, at least Black Bolt isn't actually have any relevance to his powers.
No.
It's just conveniently his Pig Latin name.
Right.
It's
Also,
his
yeah.
stupid, like that's like saying like, my name is David, I go by the hero Dave. I'm like, well, I kind of get that, but that's still stupid. But then
Yeah.
like Medusalith, oh, conveniently she has hair manipulation powers. Like, fuck off. Like this
Yeah.
is beyond stupid.
It was
All right.
really, 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 really dumb.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. So I assume your first one is Blackagar Boltagon then?
Yeah. Let's
right.
say our two first bads are the Inhuman Royal Family, the King and
Yeah.
Queen, the worst names. Obviously, somebody what it reeks of is obviously whoever came up with them came up with a character concept first, and then after like
Yeah, exactly.
a year,
It's
of writing,
lazy bullshit DC
Yeah.
writing where there's
Right.
like, I just want to make someone who throws batarangs. You're like, what did you make, Batman? Like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
the fact
it's so stupid.
they obviously made the characters, and then they were running for years, and somebody went, shouldn't they have like real names? And they go, okay,
Oh my God.
Blackagar Boltagon.
Talk about fucking phoning it in.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like on a fucking fax machine right there.
They definitely did not pass that through any sort of quality control. Whenever they made a decision, that was one old man in a room
Fucking
going, Blackagar Boltagon.
Stanley
That
is
was it.
rolling over in his grave right now. I was like,
yeah.
what the fuck did you name them?
I don't think he had anything to do with that, but now I want to find out.
I have to know. All right, well, I'll go ahead and do mine while you're doing that.
Okay.
So my second bad name is Benjamin Poindexter. And I actually don't hate the name overall, but it kind of had to be between this and the other just ridiculously dumb name. The problem with Benjamin Poindexter is that he's supposed to be like an elite fighting badass, and it just does not. It's okay to have a really dumb sounding name if you're supposed to be like a villain or a foil or like a heel. But if you're supposed to be like strike fear into people, your name can't be Poindexter. Like that's not okay.
I really like your assessment of like Benjamin Poindexter sounds like it should be the name for
The accountant.
yeah
Like,
the,
that shouldn't be
Hydra's
like Bullseye,
accountant or
yeah.
Ames mailman. It's like it's supposed to be a
Scientist Supreme Benjamin Poindexter. It's like, yeah, I can see that. It's like
Sure.
It's like elite military spec ops dude Benjamin Poindexter. Like, no,
Yeah.
he
I never
would
missed.
have been
I'm
bullied
super-
into oblivion.
I'm
no
a
way that
I'm a
makes it
super
that far.
murderer. Like
Yeah.
everybody's terrified of me.
Stone Cold Killer
Yeah.
Poindexter. Like,
Yeah.
what?
By the way, Inhumans were created by Stan Lee. I do not know who. I can't find out who gave him his name, but they were originally penned by Stan Lee. So you said Stan Lee revolving in his grave. He actually might be just hanging out.
Well,
Could have been everything he envisioned.
He's like the king of the silly names, but the silly names weren't that dumb though.
Well, he
like,
could, like I said,
Peter Parker, Reed Richards, Susan
Yeah.
Storm, like I get that, like everything has to rhyme.
they
or
love
whatever.
alliteration. They love alliteration.
Right, and I can get like it's fine for heroes to have catchy, silly names, but it's not okay to do Blackagar Boltagon. That's just not cool.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. What's your next bad one?
My next bad one is actually going along with this, just like super wise, is so on the nose. Jonathan Blaze for Ghost Rider.
yeah.
I really don't like that. Every version of Ghost Rider has some really stupid, hokey name.
But at least when it comes to Ghost Rider, you have to remember that like his character he was a stuntman, and the name Johnny Blaze is such a great stuntman name, though. Like at least like it's on the nose, as where the other ones were all stupid. It's like the problem with Bullseye's name is it's the reverse on the nose. You couldn't have been farther away from what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then Johnny Blaze is just like, okay, let's take a step back, guys. Maybe we should not just like 9/11 this thing right here.
I really don't like it. I think Jonathan Blaze. Also, the fact that it's Jonathan. Also, it's somebody and not Johnny. There's something about Johnny Blaze.
So if it was on the card, Johnny Blaze, it'd be okay.
You know what it
Because
reminds?
it's Jonathan.
You know what it reminds me of when I hear his name? It reminds me of that scene from I mentioned earlier. Yes, the scene from Dodgeball, an underdog story. Blade, laser,
Yeah.
blazer. He
said Blade. That's 35.
did he say?
He
Okay.
said Blade.
Sure. The point is, Jonathan Blaze sounds like American Gladiator name. It sounds super duper hokey, way over the top hokey.
Well, but he might have legally changed his name to Johnny Blaze when he became a stuntman. Like, that's something I could see happening. His name could have been like Jonathan Engel or something.
They can write themselves out of it if they want, but I'm telling you that whenever I was looking at the list of all the aliases in the game, and when I got to that one, I immediately went, ugh. And so I put him on the list.
I understand. I understand. So I'm going to the next one. Are you ready?
Yep.
Rocket Raccoon.
Really? You put him on the worst?
I put him on the worst for one specific reason.
Okay.
And part of it is I didn't want to duplicate some of the ones you were doing, and there's a lot of really dumb ones.
Mm-hmm.
But his given name is Subject 89P13, not Rocket Raccoon. His alter ego should be the subject name.
Yeah.
Not Rocket Raccoon. Rocket Raccoon is his nickname / hero name.
Yeah.
He is Subject 89P13.
Also, I don't like it. There's another reason why he nearly made my bad list, because his last name is Raccoon, which is basically like a takeoff of the Beatles song, I'm guessing, is where they got his last name, because he doesn't even know what a raccoon is. Like, in all the comics, he's always very mad and offended when people compare him to raccoons.
Yeah,
because
his name is Rocket.
Yeah, his name is Rocket.
He goes by Rocket. He's not Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah,
the only people that call him that are comic book readers.
Right. Or like people he meets from Earth. They're like, you're a raccoon, but they don't call him Rocket Raccoon. And I'm guessing that's just an homage to the Beatles song. That's all it is. So, I don't. I agree that it's the only one of those. Their names are their alias. The alias are their superhero names. That's the only
it's
one
like
of them I don't
all
like.
of the Guardians except for Peter.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your last bad one?
My last bad one is Victor Shade.
That's a good one.
That's Vision's name. That's one of those that we've talked about before. Like if you put that on a list of names to be called out over a loudspeaker or something, the first thing goes, Victor Shade.
If you call the store and you're like, yeah, I'm looking for Victor Shade, can you page Victor Shade? He's like, no, this is a prank.
You're bullshit.
Like,
you made this.
There's no way they read out the name on the intercom. In the defense of this name, I think that a synthezoid android would pick this name trying to be cool. Right. I can see that happening.
Well, I thought it
much
sounds
like the Johnny Blaze. I can see this situation occurring, but you're not fooling anybody.
Right. Also, by the way, Victor Shade, when he is Victor Shade, his alter ego, he is a noir detective, like a private detective. Like if it's really on the nose for his
it's so
human
over
alias.
the top. You're like, guys, calm down.
So both of mine, obviously. The royal family is the worst by far, but both of mine, Johnny Blaze and Victor Shade, are both just like, you're drilling that hole for oil, and man, I don't know why you're going so deep, but yeah,
they're just fucking digging. Like, maybe you should stop. It's like, nope, there's something down here. It's like, there's nothing down there.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we're going into our first good ones. My first good alter ego name is Cletus Cassidy. And I like Cletus Cassidy because when someone says, yeah, he's Cletus Cassidy, you're like, this guy is bad news. Like, there's no way whatever he's involved with is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love also that name. That name, there's something
such
about
a serial killer name. It's so great.
It's so good. There's something about that name. There are so many comic book fans, or even like you say, like semi-fans, people who know of it, that know that name. You don't like that name is such a big deal to anybody who's ever seen a Marvel comic, and for some reason that sticks. If you ask somebody straight up before the MCU movies, what's Hawkeye's real name? They go, I don't know. And he's been around for a long time. But if you ask somebody straight up, what's Carnage's name? They go, Cletus Cassidy, because that shit's terrifying. I don't know why. They did a perfect job capturing that, like, deliverance, ding, 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 like that personality.
And then you see him, it's like the wild eyes and the curly red hair. Yeah. Yep, that's Cletus. Like, stay away from that guy.
Yep, that guy got beat as a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Some real bad stuff happened to his past.
He is traumatized. Do not give him anything dangerous.
All right, what's your first good one?
My first good one is actually this is one that I actually love, even though I don't know why it doesn't drill too hard for me. It's Dr. Stephen Strange. I love that Dr.
Vincent Strange.
Yeah, I love that he's actually a doctor, and his last name is actually Strange. I love they made fun of it in a beautiful tongue-in-cheek way in the MCU where he goes, "What's your name?" Strange. He goes, "Oh, we're doing superhero. Oh, okay."
Well,
Like,
they did it twice because
Yeah.
he did. When he met what's the bad guy's name? Shit, I just had it.
Mordo.
Flotus? Or
No, not Mordo.
No, not Mordo. The
Caecilius?
actual bad guy.
Caecilius. Isn't his name?
Caecilius, yeah,
Yeah.
Caecilius. When he meets
Yeah.
Caecilius, he's like, your name, Mister Doctor, actually, Mister Doctor. Oh, okay, whatever. It's like, no, it's Strange. He's like, I guess. Like, he just like plays it up like it's nothing. He's like, God damn it, I'm not going to explain this to this guy. He's just killed somebody.
Right.
Like, that was so good.
Yeah.
And then yeah, they do it again in Infinity War
Right.
with
when he
Peter.
meets, yeah.
He's like Doctor Strange, like, oh, we're using made up names. like that's he's like so beyond correcting people.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I love, and I also in the comics, I'm a big Doctor Strange fan. In the comics, he owns the title of Doctor, like he's a healer. He goes out to fix things, solve problems,
Yeah.
even when he's doing his magic thing. I really like Doctor Stephen Strange and his Doctor. I think it's a really where I feel like Jonathan Blaze and Victor Shade are way too deep. Stephen Strange is elegant. It's
well, yeah,
circular.
because
I like it.
their over the top is very cheap and flashy, and it's
Mhm.
like where Stephen Vincent Strange, like, no part of that is like unrealistic, other than the last name Strange, which isn't that unrealistic.
Mhm.
It's not like his name is Boltagon.
Right.
We're within the realm of reality still.
Yeah.
So, funny, interesting thing. On a side note, where Strange is like tired of explaining to people how you actually say his name.
Mhm.
Did you know that Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, his last name is not Kelsey?
Is it Kelchi?
It's Kelsey. It's just Kels.
Kels?
There's no E.
Oh.
But apparently, they've been saying it wrong for so long that his dad just started saying Kelsey. And so, like, they grew up being known as Kelsey, like, their whole lives. But technically, his name is Kels.
Kels.
Which is why Andy Reid, the head coach, always calls him Kels.
Ah,
Because he actually knows how to say his name. It was pretty funny.
that's trivia.
Yeah, so anyway, random side note. Moving on. Are you ready for my second good one?
Go for it.
Wade W. Wilson.
Yeah.
I like Wade Wilson. I like where they got the name from, and I like everything about how it's been, like, it's just such a common name, but
Mhm.
it's also just so perfect because it's a mockumentary of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it.
Yeah, it is. And that's a good example of alliteration that works. Like that one works for the character because the character's supposed to be a little bit goofy and what's the word? Slapstick. And when you make a character, when you give it a silly name like Reed Richards or Stu Storms, it makes it a little silly. But he's supposed to be a little silly, so it's a good choice.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
And it's because he's a ripoff of Slade Wilson, which is obviously
Right.
taking itself way too far. No one names their fucking kid Slade.
Slade.
That's
Yeah.
not something that happens.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
All right, what's your second good one?
My second one is actually all of the Asgardians. All of them are named based on their actual name, right? Except for Valkyrie. Valkyrie's actual name is Brunhilde. And so that's my second choice. I really like. I think Brunhilde is actually a perfect. Like, it's great. It's actually just a super stereotypical.
I almost
Norwegian,
chose Brunhilde
Norwegian
as
name.
well.
Yeah, it's also it's super famous character in mythology as well. But I love that her character name in the Marvel universe is Valkyrie because she is a Valkyrie. That's like her title and her job. But her actual name is Brunhilde, unlike all the other Asgardians, which is just Thor and
Their
Loki.
name, yeah.
So she's just
kind
unique.
of like the Executioner. Like the Executioner he's a guy. His job is Executioner.
Right. So I think it's what's the best way? Another like neat, tidy way of doing it. I like it.
So my final good one, kind of in a similar line of yours, is Thor Odinson.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Thor Odinson. Like, if I had to pick to become a Marvel character, I'd probably choose Thor just for the life expectancy and immortality.
Mhm.
Like I'll live to be like 10,000 years old. That seems okay. Like, I could do a lot in 10,000 years. Probably eventually get my shit painted, but just like being incredibly strong, fly, superpowers, like immortal, long life, apparently able to like teleport across dimensions, like, seems cool.
Yep.
But anyway, The reason it won the war for my third slot was actually the scene from Battlegrounds, the 17th Dresden Files book, and attempting to not give away spoilers, but there will be a small spoiler here. He goes to fight an enemy, and he's like, who are you and what have you done, so I will know your name? And he's like, blah blah, and then Dresden's like, well, I've done all this stuff, and I'm Dresden, and then the guy says back, he's like, I am so and so. I fought the Odin son and lived, and that's all he said. And it's like, yeah, this guy's probably going to be a problem. He only needed to say the one thing, and it's already a problem.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like it's just like, yeah, you know when you don't fuck with somebody, like when it's just like, I am so and so son, this guy, and you're like, yeah, leave him alone, just let him go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's
my last one is actually going back to one of the earlier things we talked about, how Benjamin Poindexter missed. I love this one, hits so hard, it's perfect. George Tarleton, Modocs.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna go with Toad.
No. Actually, okay. I think Toad's a little bit too reaching.
It's too much, yeah.
Yeah, but I think George Tarleton is perfect. It sounds like it sounds like the neighbor you forgot when you were a kid, right? It sounds like just anybody. And I love that his evil name is MODOK, and organism designed only for killing. Like, it's just perfect, right? Like, it's this ridiculously over the top name that's an acronym, and then his actual name is George. Just some guy, George. I think it's a perfect duality. Also, it's kind of like you said before, he's a fool, right? He's often the fool, and he's very rarely ever the scary one that everybody's actually nervous about. He's always just pwned in the first 3 pages of the comic, and then something actually bad happens, like Ultron or Doom shows up, But
like he's unleashed something he didn't know about, and now other bad stuff's happening.
Right.
We're more cleaning up the mess than dealing with him as a problem.
Almost every single time I've ever seen him in a comic, he's in the first 3 pages, and he's the inciting incident for something else important that happens later. I can't remember a comic where he's the bad guy they were scared of. And so I love that it's a perfect name, to be opposite his supervillain moniker. It's great.
Alrighty. Well, that's going to wrap up our alter ego segment. Hopefully you guys thought that was fun. It was a little off our beaten path for stuff we normally do. So Parker, why don't you run us through our comic corner for today?
Okay. So, in honor of somebody who just beats me like a redheaded stepchild every single time I come across him, I want to talk about Thanos today. I don't know if how many people know this, but Thanos is often the antagonist in almost every story. Tons of them in the Marvel universe. You see tons of really cool versions of Thanos being an antagonist, but he actually had his own title for a while. And there's several graphic novels that I recommend that are strong. Just the basic title, Thanos, is a graphic novel called Thanos Volume 1, Thanos Returns, and then Thanos Volume 2, The God Quarry. And they're done very well. They're both written by Jeff Lemire, and they're strong. But I think by far the strongest one is the third volume, which is actually not written by Lemire. It's written by Donny Cates. But it's called Thanos Wins, which is perfect because how many times I've played Thanos and he always wins. So the concept of Thanos Wins is basically it's a little bit of a, if you're familiar with the What If series of comics where they make hypothetical situations, but this hypothetical is, if Thanos is the penultimate villain, if what he's interested in is cosmic death, and we know according to the universe that that's what happens. Eventually, our universe loses all its energy. It drains down into eventual cataclysmic molecular cosmic death. It takes trillions and trillions of years to get there, but it will. So if Thanos lives forever and death is the ultimate thing, what happens in the future? Like, what ultimately happens if Thanos is there when everything dies? So it follows that and ask the question of what happens when Thanos wins, because it's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's a really cool comic that explores some of that kind of heat death of the universe stuff, and also marries that with the Marvel universe we love, and Thanos is over our his incredible power, and of course, if those are a fan of the comics, that Thanos has a love affair with the actual entity Death. in the Marvel universe, Death is an actual personification. She's a woman, and Thanos is in love with her and always seeking her favor. It's one of his primary motivators for a lot of his behavior. And basically, if at the end of the universe he actually kills everybody and it's just him and Death, and those are the only entities left, what happens next? And so this story, Thanos Wins, explores that concept. So super cool sci-fi mixed with, if you want to see Thanos by himself and not just as the bad guy, but see a little bit about what goes on in his head. Also, Donny Cates does a really good job of I think he does a sublime job of expressing how is it that Thanos actually deals with his obsession with death. Like, how does he rationalize it? Because he's not insane. People call him insane, but he's not. He's rational. So how does he rationalize it? What does Thanos actually think? We never get to see his thought bubble. We get to see it a little bit in Thanos Wins. So if you want to see a really cool representation of Thanos, the most modern interpretation of him, you should check it out. It's really good. The third volume, Thanos Wins. The other two are also strong, but the third one is the really cool one.
I like how you're like, they're very strong, but this one's better, written by a totally different person. I like that.
Yeah, they're very much, they're all together. I think if you read all three, it's the best version of it. That's why I mentioned the other two. But Donny Cates does a really cool job of really cracking open his skull and seeing like what makes Thanos tick. What would happen to him if he really got to achieve his goal? It's very interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Hopefully you guys had fun. This has been Brandon.
And Dr. Bantis Toboggan, MD.
I almost brought that up as one of my more liked names of characters. But we said Marvel characters. So.
Right.
And this has been Parker Talks Smack. Go ahead and finish up your list.
I'm done. I'm good.
All right. Do we have something a main topic we want to do? All right. So.
Main topic. Let me think.
Because we can't do ratings. We probably don't want to do too many crunchy topics because we've only played like 3 games.
I can talk anything about it. I can talk about anything.
That's true. You can talk about it.
I can talk about absolutely anything. Conjecture is my middle name.
Jeremy's lady friend was talking about how she thought you were the smartest guy on the podcast just because the way you phrase everything.
Yeah.
And we were both like, that's funny. He's an idiot. Just said deadpan. Both said the same thing.
Or am I?
He doesn't know anything about the game. She's like, oh, well, he sounds like he does.
Or am I?
Quit misleading the public, Parker.
It's all about talking the good game, right? Not playing the good game.
Hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that.
Yeah. What is playing Criminal
Minds?
Oh,
like whatever shitty show you're watching? Oh.
No, just Criminals and Cabal.
Oh wait, I had something for this. Didn't I have the flow chart for what your fucking name was? Hold on.
Well, I'm doing Criminals Cabal for the league for the draft.
Yeah. But I thought I made like a chart for like what your affiliation name was based on
how many affiliations I had.
Well, no, which affiliations you were playing. I had it. I must have deleted it.
I had 4 affiliations in mine, technically, but I just play Criminal Cabal more.
I must have deleted it. But it was like if you were like Asgard Cabal, your affiliation name was AssCab. It's like I had one for like everything. I must have deleted it. That sucks. That doesn't sound like me. I never delete anything. Maybe I made a separate spreadsheet for it. Let's see.
Maybe this is just our meta, but you and I have speculated a lot, like constantly, about going single faction versus dual faction in your composition, and yet to hear you guys talk about playing currently, to what I understand about the game state, at least in our meta, and what I've been able to experience myself, I haven't really seen anyone build a list going, I'm definitely going to play sometimes this faction, sometimes this faction. People go in saying, I'm playing Cabal, I'm playing Brotherhood, I'm playing Asgard, and that's just been that's been the way it actually hits the table, is my guess. So that's just been my experience. That's colloquial, but maybe there's a topic there. Like, why is it that
we talked about this not that long ago?
Oh, we did?
Yeah, that's when we brought this up. Like when you do, when you don't, like do multi-faction.
Right, but when you do, when you don't, it seems to be when you don't. I don't know when you do. And I guess when you do is it because you're doing like competition? Is tournament play a better way to do when you don't?
Like sometimes like your list isn't very good into another faction, but that's basically all it comes down to. Yeah, if you know what you want to play, then you're gonna play it. But the only time you don't is when the matchup doesn't really allow you to.
Well, I guess here's the rub. In this particular game, and maybe it's just the level that I'm at, and maybe the level the store is at, and not the level you're. I feel like. Of the people at the store, is it you and Jeremy are at the level where you can actually look across the table at your opponent's list and go, I should have brought a dual list because I would have had a better luck if I would have had an option flexibility? Because right now, I feel like, I don't know if it's this game Marvel Crisis Protocol or just my lack of experience, a young meta, where I do not see anybody making those kind of decisions. So I think there's lots of reasons why this game may feel a little different than War Machine.
We'll just pencil this in. So,
I think maybe this is a.
Well, I just don't want to beat it to death in the pre-ramble if we're going to actually talk about
it. Okay, I guess this is my question. Maybe to kind of focus the conversation is: does Marvel Crisis Protocol does this game foster the kind of competitive setting where you'd want something flexible for your opponent, or does it foster more of a I want to play my favorite character that I love? Like what is or my cool thing that I want to do with the rules? I don't know. Like I guess the option we'll talk about it, but the option is there for multi-faction. But is it really?
I think it absolutely is, and if you don't think it is, that's your point of view. That's from your like individual. Opinions.
It's like your opinion, man.
There you go. Do you see what I did there?
You took off my apostrophe?
I did.
Today's is possessive. Okay. As soon as I left it, it said. Okay. Why are you doing it? Okay.
There's no punctuation allowed in my document. You want to add punctuation, make your own goddamn document.
Okay. Let me look at Blade real fast so I don't.
Yeah, you look it up because I haven't looked at it yet.
Okay, let me look it up real fast.
I mean, just my personal opinion. If he doesn't just like automatically kill Blackulas in one hit, then there's just like no point.
Ooh.
Dhampir,
yeah. It's an ancient Slavic word, I think, that means half vampire.
They have a word for half vampire in Slavic.
I'm pretty sure.
This is ancient tongue.
This is not the first time I've heard the word Dhampir. Balkans, Slavic Balkan word.
Wow, what fucking ass backwards world did they used to live in, where they had to develop a term that meant half vampire?
Well, Dhampir was like that's also where like the concept of a vampire, like the modern Stroker's Dracula, like comes from folklore from the Balkans. Slavic folklore. So
it's like a Korean toilet ghost, right? Like people just thought they existed for so long.
Yeah,
it's like nope. In fact, like when I first found out what a pentagallon was, I was like, "What the shit? Who the fuck thought this up?" It's like, "Oh no, it's like this actual piece of lore. Like they thought these things existed." And I'm like, "Holy fuck! Like go look up a pentagallon. These things are fucking creepy."
What? Ooh.
Does it not mean half vampire?
No, I'm reading more of his stuff. Oh shit. Oh, okay. Maybe that's not so bad. Oh. Ooh. You may hate this. I'm really excited to tell you about it. Here we go. Are you reading it instead? Are you spoiling it?
I'm skimming it.
Don't. I really want to.
All right, I won't read it.
I want to see what happens whenever you find out it's getting worse.
Mean, is he a 3-point model that has a range 5 push attack?
No.
That will upset me.
Yeah, it would.
Does he also have an effect that lets him teleport other people range 3? Because that would also upset me.
It could.
Oh, great. All right.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you won't be mad about this. I'm actually curious. That's what I want. I want to know. I want to see it happen.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. So I'm watching season 4 of The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched The Expanse?
No. My brother keeps telling me to get into it. I have not.
So it is good, but it's slow, like real slow.
Mm-hmm.
But it is good, but it's slow. Much like me explaining how the show is, it's very slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's interesting points, and there's a lot of interesting development of the characters, I think.
Yeah.
But around like season 2 to halfway through season 3, it just felt like nothing happened for like 40 minutes at a time. Like just it was dragging ass. I just didn't know what the hell was going on. But I thought it was one of the best, like, because I thought the show ended after 3 seasons. I didn't know they were going to continue. And so I thought they wrapped it up better than any other sci-fi series I've ever seen. Because I thought it was the end of the show, and apparently I just didn't know. And so I was like, oh man, what a great ending to this interesting story. And so, like, this is such a great way to leave the story. It was like, good job, writers. And then I saw there was another season. I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's over. Did you not watch the show? Apparently, it's much like first season of Game of Thrones. It keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So I've been watching it, and there's good and bad things about season 4. It seems to be going at a faster pace, which is nice. But it's falling into a lot of the footholes of other more modern sci-fi shows where it's like just modern action in general. Everything has to be, well, he can't just wreck the car. He has to wreck the car next to a cliff, jump out of the car while it's in midair, and grab on by his fingernails on a single sheet of paper and hold himself there for an hour before he can climb up. You're like, yeah, we get it. He almost fell off a cliff. But it's like if you've watched the new Lost in Space show on Netflix, they do this in every scene. You can't just get stabbed. You have to get stabbed to the point where you're bleeding to death. Like everything is like life or death at every second. And it's just like, it's so over milked that it's no longer interesting. Because I can tell you, when I see somebody like driving a car, it's like, oh, he's gonna hit something and roll it, and these days you have to walk back, almost run out of oxygen. You're like, yep, that's what happens. Like every scene is, well, there's nothing going on, so there must be like quicksand or something. Like, yep, quicksand. Like every scene is just like, what the why is everything to the point where it defies the laws of physics?
Right.
That like the terrain is attacking them. Like in the first episode, there's no spoilers. Like the first 5 minutes of the show, they wreck the ship, and they're like, well, it's cold, but we crashed in a lake, so everything's okay. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to swim down in my spacesuit and get something out of the ship and swim back up. It's like, all right, go. And then they're going, and then the lake starts to freeze? Which, Parker, you know more about thermodynamics than I do, but
okay, what?
Can about 12 million gallons of water freeze in 12 seconds? Solid. Not like has ice on top. It literally freezes from the bottom up. Solid. Like literally a rock. But the person inside the lake survives.
Yeah.
So they have to use a laser to drill a hole through the ice to get to her and then like excavate her out of the ice. Like she's like swimming away from freezing water. It is freezing in a wall behind her. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Does no one here live on Earth? Like, do they not know how things...
Is she on Earth? Is that where she is?
No, they're on another planet.
Okay.
But, like, it's just water. Like, I'm pretty sure they drink the water later. It's not like a pool of methane. Like,
yeah, something weird that would...
Yeah, it's not like another kind of liquid that has a different freezing temperature. But the thing doesn't make sense. When they crashed on this planet, the temperature didn't drop. And even if
Yeah.
it did, the water isn't that cold. That's not how temperature exchange works.
Right.
And so literally, like, it's so stupid. The entire lake freezes in like 30 seconds.
Now, it is true that there are, like, if you have, like, this actually happens in Earth's oceans.
If you had like perfectly distilled water and it was like
yeah.
very, very cold, and then you caused some sort of physical interaction with it, it can cause a shock freeze. Yes.
Yeah, they can do that kind
But
of thing.
that is not what happened.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, you have, like, it also happens,
They
like,
didn't have.
in the,
Yeah.
it also happens, like, in the Antarctica. They'll have these things
Mhm.
called brinicles, which will grow very quickly, like, almost visually quickly, but it's not,
Yeah.
it's like starfish can get out of the way. It's not like
Yes.
people swimming can
Well,
get out of
the
way.
thing that's extra infuriating, so they just had a ship enter orbit, right? Those things tend to get, I don't know, above room temperature when they're re-entering orbit.
If there's an atmosphere, fuck
And
yes.
then they landed
Yeah.
in the water. So if there was any amount of temperature exchange happening from this incident, it would have been increasing the temperature of the water.
Right.
Not to mention the movement of the water would resist the freezing. Like the constant motion they would have because it had been disturbed would prevent the freezing.
It is kind of odd. But they,
It
I
makes
I
no
see,
sense.
Yeah, I see your point. Like, you have to completely disobey the laws of physics in order to make scary situations more
Yeah.
scary.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like everything has to be that way. And there was actually in the show's credit in the second season, there's a very interesting thing that happens. And I don't want to spoil too much, but I mean it's been out for like a year and a half or 2.5 years
Yeah,
now.
it's been a while.
But yeah, there's this alien rust it's not actually rust, it's like a single-celled organism, kind of like it's a bacteria that eats metal.
Okay.
And so effectively to our eyes it rusts. But
Okay.
it's really cool because it basically is an algae that eats metal. And so at one point it gets on their ship and they're like, "Oh God, what do we do?" And it's just eating through their ship, but it's not like at a visual rate where you can see it moving, but it's not just like turning it to ash and like
Right.
like a tidal wave or anything. But like,
Mhm.
so now it's like, well, what do we do? The entire fucking ship is made of metal. Like, how do we get rid of this? So they're like cutting out sections of wall and throwing it into space. They're like, what do we do? And so that was kind of interesting, even though it's obviously science fiction and not realistic.
Right.
But it was at least an interesting problem, and it wasn't just everyone's dead, I guess. Like, until random miracle happens. It got so bad in the show where you're just like, all right, well, I can't even go into it. It's so stupid. Like the shit that happens in that show. It's like, who's their screenwriter? Does he just not understand how to write action scenes? Like, it's so terrible.
It's like they've got to keep jumping the shark because that's what they did first, maybe? Is that like the
Yeah.
idea?
I think the intent was they want to keep people on the edge of their seat, and so they turned it up to 17, and they're like, it's not, it's less scary when shit happens. Like it needs, like literally every scene, you're like, as soon as a problem is solved, the next line of dialogue is the next problem. Like, it's so formulaic that it's like, all right, this is a scene, nothing bad has happened yet. So either we're going to see the smoking gun that's going, or the Chekhov's gun that's going to be the problem next, and so we know what's going to happen, or we're going to immediately have a problem. And like, there's no in between. It's like every scene is either introducing a problem or resolving a problem. And it's just like, we get it. Like, it's just so formulaic, it gets boring.
Also, it's also emotionally exhausting because it doesn't like.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I have no investment in these characters. Oh, and they also do the CW thing where it's like, I'm going to keep a secret at the expense of myself and everyone around me for no logical reason. And you're like, but why? It's like, no, I unclear. I don't know why. You're like, oh my God. Like, in one situation, this guy is basically kidnapped and then marooned by another passenger that was stranded on this planet. Like, she steals all of his stuff and leaves him to die in the desert. A fact that he decides to keep to himself when he gets back to camp.
What?
Like, what? Like, this person attempted to murder you for obvious ill gain, and you're just like, nah, I'm just gonna keep this to myself and never mention it to another human being. You're like, what? Like, how did, like, the only reason this person is allowed to get away with all this bullshit they're doing is because of illogical things that other people do. It's just really hard to follow it.
Yeah, you and I have talked many times about how our least favorite thing is that when a plot has to move forward because characters don't know what other characters are doing, and there's no reason. Like, if there's a reason why characters don't know, fine, like, it's earned.
Yeah.
But whenever somebody purposely just doesn't say something that's completely obvious to the plot, that would, create less, close a loophole, right? So
Yeah.
it would make the drama disappear because they've already solved the conflict.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredibly frustrating when it's just like the random secret keeping that makes no sense.
It's you want the problems in a story to be solved by ingenuity or strength or of character or like integrity, courage. Instead, it should just be solved by basic communication skills, like very basic communication skills. Just like this solves the problem.
It's like if you go back and watch 90s television shows, they're like, man, this problem could be solved with a cell phone. Like 100%. Like the entire plot of this episode is dissolved if you just add a cell phone.
Yeah.
But it's like that with talking to people in the room
In
with
the
you
face,
in
yeah.
some shows. Yeah, it's like, man, if this person knew this, which is something like I was abducted by aliens yesterday. It's like, I'll just keep that to myself. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's something you keep to yourself, Brian. You fucking tell people that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
reminds me of the How It for those of you who've never seen any of the How It Should Have Ended, it's a YouTube series that's fun to watch if you like exactly this kind of conversation we're having right now, which is there's in making of plots, there are really obviously things the characters could have done to solve the problem, and it's not just like in horror movies where you don't go into the room full of chainsaws. One of my favorite
we
ones
just get
is
the
for
running car.
Yeah, for the Superman. I would say Superman, the one where the new one with Russell Crowe and is Zor-El, and the reason why, Henry Cavill, and the reason why the reason why I mentioned Russell Crowe is as soon as Zod shows up, he goes, "I'm a Kryptonian," and Clark Kent goes, "Oh wait, I have a space dad," and he goes and he asks him, he's like, "Who is that guy?" He goes, "Well, it's Zod. He's a monster, real monster." He goes, "Oh, okay. How do I beat him?" It's like, "Well, you probably use the Phantom Drive in your infant ship." He goes, "Cool," and he throws it at the spaceship, disappears. That's it, like the end. And so they go back and they go, "Man, that would have been really bad if you would have had to fought Zod like on the surface of the Earth. The millions of people probably would have died in the ensuing conflict." He goes, "Yeah, really terrible idea."
Not to mention all the terraforming damage to the planet's like ecosystem.
Right. But that's the point, right? Like basic communication skills. If you just basically communicate with your database of, then you just solve your problem. And then in that scene, he goes, "When did you go talk to a random priest?" And he goes, "Why would I have talked to a random priest?" He goes, "Well, for wisdom." He goes, "Any priest?" just
a priest?
Yeah, just any priest. He goes, "Yeah, well, probably a local one." Just like, why would I do that? But that's the point, right? It's like, why? He solves this problem by talking to a priest. Oh.
And he doesn't. Like he leaves there still in turmoil. Like,
it was a really strange. But that's the point of the movie,
especially when you have a space dad.
Yeah, you have a space dad. Just go talk to space dad.
Well, think about it, Parker. He had to take like a 1.5 minute journey to the North Pole to go talk to the space dad.
Right. It takes at least 45 seconds to get there from anywhere.
Yeah, that's round trip.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and start. I feel like I may have to go get my appendix checked out tomorrow, so let's figure this out.
Oh, okay. Well, you have a hobby knife. You just cut that shit out.
Oh shit! I am so not on board with this being in my appendix. I'm so not on board with it.
You're not on board for surgery tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not on board for surgery tomorrow. I want to go play games. I'm not gonna lie. The main reason I don't want to do surgery tomorrow is because it would stop me from playing Marvel Crisis Protocol.
All right, I'm gonna go adjust my fan, then we'll get started. Oh, but to finish my point, I think we got distracted. But there are parts in season 4 of The Expanse that are very much like that, where it's like, well, if you guys would just fucking talk to each other, this could get resolved. Or like they just add in needless every timer has to go to 0.1 seconds now. They can't stop at 10 seconds. Like it's got to be the absolute last possible second. And it's just like. Yeah, anyway. All right, you good?
Yep. I thought it was good. I really thought it was going to be Spider-Gar Spider-Car
Spider-Car
Man
Mana-Dude.
Dude. Spider-Car Mana Dude. I thought that was the best version. That's the best title I've ever heard. Spider-Car Mana Dude.
Maybe I'll be Spider-Car Mana-Dude next time. Oh boy. I'm not tired, I'm just lethargic. Like, this is like finally catching up on like not having a million things to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's just like the darkest before the dawn right now because I'm about to have a whole lot more shit to do soon.
Oh, really? What? Like what?
Oh, with our fucking Strike Force Alliance.
Oh.
Hey, I wonder if anybody listens to a podcast that plays Strike Force wants to join our alliance.
Ooh. Okay. Are you familiar with the movie Aladdin?
I've heard of it.
Okay. Have you watched it? Have you seen it?
The live action or
No, the animated one.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
I grew up
So,
in the 90s.
I was looking up other examples of like where you said like people ignore the laws of physics to make something happen. This is not one for danger. This is one in the romantic sequence when Aladdin takes Jasmine on the magic carpet ride. That he goes and they see different sights around the world, different world wonders.
Is this like how far apart they are?
Right. So it said at 1 minute at 1 hour and 48 seconds they're in Egypt, and at 1 hour 59 seconds. At 1 hour 48 minutes they're in Egypt. At 1 hour 59 minutes they're in Greece. Egypt is 1,596 kilometers away from Greece. This means that they must have traveled 1,596 kilometers in 11 seconds. Or an average of 145,090 meters per second, or about 324,000 miles per hour. So keep in mind the Apollo mission. Keep in mind that Apollo mission's reentry speed was about 24,000 miles per hour. And those people had a heat shield to protect them from the extreme heat a speed would cause. Aladdin and Jasmine are wearing regular clothing and not much of it, which does not protect from atmospheric reentry, mind you, and are therefore dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, it is a magical carpet. Like,
right.
The whole point is did you not equivalent the thrust on a fucking flying carpet? Like, Of course, like, this is literally magic. Like, the whole point is to, remove belief and, just buy in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. In the third movie, they find an object that turns things to gold. What's the physics on that one? Did you not watch the third one? Aladdin and the King of Thieves?
The Hand of Midas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen
That's
it.
on a turtle the size of an island.
Yeah, that's right.
I was always wondering when they dropped it into the water why it didn't turn the ocean to gold.
Because duh.
Because duh. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
As a kid, I was like, but wouldn't that just like turn the water to solid gold?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it only affects solids. Like, but
that doesn't make
why
sense.
would it? If you touch it to a piece of fabric, wouldn't it only turn the threads it actually touched to gold? Wouldn't it not turn? And gold's actually malleable thread's malleable at that thickness of gold. Like, wouldn't you still be able to move the clothing? But they act like it was a statue. Like, he touches the dude's cloak and it turns him to gold. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Then later he wraps a cloth around it and then carries it with the cloth on it, but it doesn't turn the cloth to gold. Like the inconsistencies are just abound.
It's insane. Like, also, if it's just matter, if that's possible, if we're presupposing that matter can just reform from whatever matter state it is electrons and protons reform to be a gold state.
I mean, literally, the show Full Metal Alchemist made more sense than this.
Actually, the show Full Metal Alchemist, at least they presuppose the concept of matter cannot be created or destroyed, right?
Yeah.
But if a Midas hand actually existed, it would immediately start like changing, the particles of air around it into gold particles, and I'm guessing would accumulate to itself. But the resulting,
so then you couldn't touch it because it'd be surrounded by gold.
Yeah. Also,
like all the dust in the air would just immediately turn to gold on it.
I guess. Also,
like little gold flakes.
Depending upon the speed of this, it could cause like explosive decompression as air molecules are, turned from a gas to solid state instantly. Or is it gaseous gold, which is insanely hot and everything just starts burning around it? Like, they don't.
Yeah. Who made this? What idiot?
This is a dumb idea.
Since we're on the topic of like logic and physics and like hypotheticals, we had this conversation at the shop the other day because people always say, well, I'm like, oh, well, would you like to like get this? They're like, I'm not made of money. So the thought process of what would happen if people were made of money. And I was like, would eating be the equivalent of making change? Would you just like give someone a 20 off of your person and they would give you back 21s and you would then be more full because you had more mass? Like, is that how you would like? So as you aged and you wanted to consume more food, you would just trade out larger denominations for smaller denominations?
Or
and would that be considered selling your body for food? Like what would be the ethics behind this?
Also, like inflation, right? Are younger people worth less than older people? Like,
I think they'd be worth more because they would have more potential.
But older people were minted at an earlier time. If their minting was at the rate of inflation back then,
money wears out. Even coin money wears out over time.
Yes. It could wear out over time, but that's why they make things out of like nickel and copper. Is it resists oxidation.
Well, sure, but eventually it would literally just wear down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like over time, like coins will just wear down to nothing if you keep handling them.
Well, they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, if you just sat still, nothing's interacting with it. But if you're like constantly handling it, like eventually you will rub it down to nothing over a long enough period.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. They do constantly take in old coins for that purpose because it becomes difficult to treat them as tinder if it's been difficult. But if a person is money, this is a weird conversation.
Yeah, what would we trade in other goods? Like,
or we trade in
weird
would we have to like recycle parts of ourselves to get a newer version that is obviously tinder?
Mm-hmm. So my mind just immediately went to the movie. I think it's just called In Time with what's
Justin
his
Timberlake.
Name? Yeah, Justin Timberlake.
I like that movie a lot.
It's actually an interesting movie because it's a sci-fi movie that's done like reasonably well. It doesn't like jump the shark repeatedly, but so if you haven't seen the movie, basically they've developed technology that they install in people at birth, and it is a internal system that will basically keep you young and healthy forever. But to counteract the problem of overpopulation, they put a time restriction on it. So you start with 1 year of time, and it doesn't kick in until you turn 25. You basically have free roll until you turn 25. And so basically the medicine is so advanced that the only thing that could kill you is literally somebody like causing like triage level damage, and that would end your life. Because there's like no disease, no health problems. It's just the act of damage to your body. They call it meat damage. But yeah, so you start with a year and it doesn't kick in until you're 24, 25. So you basically get to live until 26 for nothing. And then anytime you like work at a job or you trade something, they trade everything in time. And so time is their currency. Like if you want to buy a cup of coffee, it's like a minute. And so you would spend a minute of your clock to get the coffee. And so it's kind of a similar concept, I think, where it's like, well, you have all of this like economic value in yourself. It's just how far do you want to push it? And so the people who live paycheck to paycheck are basically called Minutemen because they're always down to the minutes. They have less than a day left.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. And then obviously it turns into this Hunger Game level like class war kind of thing where there's people that have so much time built up, like centuries of time just built up that not doing anything, and people are literally dying in the street because they run out of time. But it's interesting. I think it would be kind of like that if people were made of money.
I guess it would all be if you said like you intimated before is based on mass, but if you have a value like credit that doesn't have mass but instead just inside of you, then yeah, there would definitely be a way to accrue more, and then therefore you'd have people.
Well, what if you just got like you just became this giant golem of dollar bills, like were you just like huge?
The dollar golem.
I mean, there's a lot of creatures in like mythos and lore and stuff where it's like they would get bigger over time, like an orc, and like an orc gets bigger the stronger it gets. So like you could just get like people that were just enormous, like Kingpin. He's like rich, therefore he's large.
That's awesome. Oh, by the way, his name was also on my list of awesome names. I love his name, Wilson Fisk. I love that name.
It's a solid name.
Anybody who's seen the Daredevil TV show would know, like, because he's not known as Kingpin in that, I think, ever. I don't think
He's just Fisk.
Oh God, it's so. His version of Fisk is just the best.
Mm-hmm.
I love.
Oh
that
boy!
Fisk.
All right, so you're coming up tomorrow to back up your talk.
Yeah. If I'm not suffering from some sort of whatever this is, I hope I'm not. I hope. Like
I
right
feel
now,
like
I
you would
fine.
be in much greater pain if you had appendicitis.
Everything that I've read says I should be like in terrible pain. So it only feels bad when I'm like moving around, like bending down, standing up. It's pretty sharp. But if I'm sitting, no big deal. So we'll see.
Yeah, you might just pulled an abdominal muscle. That's not uncommon.
Right. I am biking a lot now. I'm exercising a lot, so it definitely could have happened then.
Have you tried like massaging the area that is causing the pain and seeing if you can cause pain with pressure, or if it's by like stretching a part of your anatomy?
When I push on it, it doesn't seem to cause it extra pain. No, it's just like the pulling and pushing.
I feel like if you just did generic pressure on the region of your appendix being about to burst, that would cause great pain.
Yes.
I feel like it would be very tender to the touch.
It'd be very inflamed, right? Yeah, super inflamed. Yeah. So it's just it's a.
Ooh, have you been bitten by a spider?
Ooh.
Maybe it's a brown recluse and you're about to lose a chunk of flesh.
That's not no.
What if you ignore the problem? Then you'll lose a chunk of flesh. It's gonna just like ice cream scooper out your abdomen. Oh boy. All right, so you excited for anybody in the Midnight Suns?
I
think New Strange is gonna be
New
cool.
Strange. I love New Strange's model. Like I just love his. I love his costume. His costume's super cool. Like are they going to be the same base size? Probably not.
Yeah, they're both mediums.
Okay, if they're both mediums, then I'm probably going to be using the other Strange model for whatever Strange I want all the time. Because the other model is great. I love the rune effects, but
I mean, the new sling ring is way better. There's no question.
Yeah. I love his costume so much. It's so cool.
So just Strange, nobody else.
Thinking about it, I think the Hood will be cool. I'm excited for the Hood. I want to see what he does. I really, really like the Hood in the comic books. He's one of those supervillains you root for. I root for him. I'm excited.
I'm kind of excited for a Transformer that's not dog shit.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I hope. Well, if it's
do you think Transform plus the leadership ability is going to be too strong?
You know what I actually think it'll be? I actually think it'll be. I wonder if it'll just be the flip. When you flip him over, he changes. He won't transform back and forth. I wonder if it'll just be the flip.
I don't think they'd do a separate model for that because it's just an aesthetic difference. The whole reason of having an aesthetic difference would be show like what state he's in, because the card would then show what state he's in if you just flip the card over. I'm pretty sure he's going to transform.
I hope he does. That'd be really cool.
The simple fact that they're doing the Midnight Suns means that one of the developers is a fan of the Midnight Suns, and if they're a fan of the Midnight Suns and decide to put the Hood in the game, he's probably going to transform.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you follow that logic train,
I don't think it's just Midnight Suns. I think it's also Strange movie, and that kind of stuff. The fact that Strange movie.
Oh yeah, maybe he's in the Strange movie.
I don't know if he'll be in this. I don't know if he'll be in the Strange movie, but they've already had before where they put random characters in the game that aren't really attached to anything.
Oh, hold on, time out. Anyway, still listening. There's potential Loki spoilers, like final episode Loki spoilers. So.
Oh yeah, danger.
Stop listening now if you care about spoilers for Loki.
Okay.
Even though it's like 2 or 3 weeks out now. So did you see that black guy is Kang? I didn't make that connection.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. But I don't know very much about Kang, so.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, he's definitely supposed to be. I don't. Mm-hmm. Did they ever? He says I've been called a conqueror. Like he says that like in his list of things he's been called.
But
and
apparently,
yeah. And as soon as you hear that, you go, okay, he's Kang. Like I don't think he ever says Kang, but when the fact that he goes, I think
the whole point is that our universe's Kang didn't become Kang. But the fact that he's a time traveler, like he lives at the end of time and he basically does he controls the timeline, like that sounds like Kang now that I think about it. But he clearly said like he's the only one that decided to come here and make a refuge. And so he's the Kang that didn't become Kang. All the other Kangs decided to try and conquer the multiverse.
Well,
That was at least how I took it.
No, I think he was just the one who figured out a way to stop it, right? He was the most successful Kang. But I think he was. I mean, he also did created something terrifying.
Sure.
I think I think he's supposed to be Kang, and I think they're gonna
Well, he's confirmed as Kang.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed in it, honestly, because I felt like I don't know why. Sorry, I'll say this. At first, I was disappointed, and then I was like, I don't know why I'm surprised, because every single one of these Marvel shows, the last episode has been about the next Marvel thing, right? Mm-hmm. Every single one. And so this is obviously introducing Kang and the idea of multiversal fracture as the big bad for a lot of the other content they're doing, their movies and everything, right?
Well, yeah, like all three of the shows have basically ended here, where we're basically getting ready for the next movie to come out.
Right. The multiversal conflict is what like the next thing's going to be. Like the Ant-Man and Wasp is going to be about Quantum Mania, so it's all about quantum possibilities and multiversal stuff. Multiverse of Madness is Doctor Strange. Like Spider-Man is Away From Home or whatever it is. Like so.
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Right. So it's all going to be about multiversal stuff, and I think Loki is actually like Loki and Scarlet Witch are going to like the two ones. I feel like I don't know how the end of I didn't really see anything in the end of.
No, yeah, Winter Soldier was just whatever.
I
think it's trying to show that they're gonna have to come together on Earth in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that might be a lead up to, because the rumor is that they're going to use this multiverse incursion thing to justify bringing in all the other like Fox rights into our universe, and so like Fantastic Four and the mutants are going to become canon and all that. And so that you could say that's kind of like saying we're going to need to come together as a group. But yeah, I mean, that one was definitely not as heavy on the implications in the larger timeline.
All the Captain America themed shows, and that one definitely has one, it was like that. Like original Cap,
it's
Winter
smaller
Soldier.
Scale.
Yeah, it's all like global problems. Global problems. I think
we're definitely dealing with like cosmic level shit.
Yeah. So I think it's I didn't like it. It was Kang. I actually hoped it was Loki. I hoped it was a variant
Just
of Loki.
Another Loki?
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Because one of the big themes of the whole show was Loki trying desperately to tell everyone that yes, all Lokis want to conquer everything. That's what all Lokis want. That's not what he wants. He's had a character revelation. That's not what he wants. And he met another Loki who also has had a character revelation. She doesn't want to conquer everything. She wants to burn down everything. So Loki, our Loki that we care about, the Loki we follow, I'm gonna call him Loki Prime. Like he wants affection. Like he wants to be with someone. Like he wants to have a connection with somebody. He doesn't want to die. He wants to reconcile all this, right? And that's why he's so affected. In the first episode did such a great job of taking all the things we know about Loki, the character, and making him experience them in like 20 minutes so that we could believe that he had this character transition with him. It's awesome. And then, whatever her name is, I can't remember what she calls herself. The Loki variant, this girl, Sylvie is motivated by revenge. Everything was taken from her, so she's just gonna burn it all. Fuck it, like just burn it all down. And so these two variants are the only variants that aren't Lokiing up every time, right? All the other variants are just constantly trying to conquer everything. So I thought, since this was such a powerful theme in it, and it was only getting more and more obvious when they got to like the end of it, when they're in the void and they meet all the other Lokis that are always fighting each other to be conquerors of the void. And I thought they were going to make it to the castle and find the Loki that won, right? The best Loki. Because that was a big joke in the first couple episodes was, who's the best Loki? I'm the best Loki. And I thought they were going to find one. He was going to claim to be the best. He actually won. And then, because of who they were, Sylvie and Loki Prime, because of who they were going to be able to unravel the problem of what to do with the system and the TVA, because they're the only Lokis that didn't want to rule. And that's what made them special. That's why when they were having their romantic moment, there was this big multiversal problem. They still have never answered that question of why at the lake they had the big multiversal problem right before the Armageddon, with the asteroid, so the planet was coming apart. They never answered why those two being romantically involved was a big multiversal problem. They kind of hinted at it whenever Kang says he didn't know what happens after a certain point. Like, he knew everything that happened in all of time except for at this point, because then it's all about the Loki's deciding. But they never came back and said why the lake was such a big deal. Why them? I'm guessing they answer that in Loki season 2. But I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of when it turned out to be just another bad guy, I was immediately disappointed because I felt like the themes didn't get realized. And they did, though. With Loki and Sylvie's falling out, they were realized. Loki's
I think it's fine because there's always season 2, right? Like they introduced a bad guy, but they didn't like kill off the bad guy. They just introduced the fact that he is there and things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not like we hit a wall or like a no point of no return in Loki. Mm-hmm. Because like he even said the whole thing's gonna start all over again.
Right.
And
I loved where they left the show. But I guess I was really surprised by the amount of cliffhanger. Because
me too.
The other 2 seasons were very much tied with a bow with a little bit of string on the end to keep going. And this one was no tie, like no bow.
Yeah.
No,
this was the first one. It's like, okay, this is going to be an installment. This is going to be the first show that's like we're going multi-season.
This was Act 1, of it, and I actually felt like maybe Act 1.5. It's funny. All the other shows did not feel it necessary to put Loki will return in season 2, but this did, and I feel like that was a clear sign of producers saying, if we don't put something at the end of this, people are going to get pissed as hell. We have to make it
like, that's the end.
And they have to make it. We have to make it. We have to make it abundantly clear to the idiots who watch this that we are going to make more than one of these, or else people are going to fucking march on our building, electronically, digitally. But I think
we'll get canceled.
Yeah. So I'm really
we'll be taken off the platform that we own.
Yeah. So I think like anybody else watching it, I think dissatisfied because I was hoping for more resolution that happened, and I had specifically thought that one resolution was going to happen because I thought I saw it coming, but the fact that it was Kang and then no resolution really.
Yeah, I think the problem was we all expected it because the precedent has been there will be resolution. Even WandaVision, which was cryptic as fuck. Yeah. Like there was complete resolution basically. Right. Like there's very little left over.
The primary problem of her in the town, right? The town that was resolved.
Yeah, like the whole plot of the show is fixed. Like the only thing we don't know is like basically the fallout of it. We knew what happened.
Right.
Like it was an event. It's on the show. Watch it.
Yeah. But then the fact that almost none of this was really resolved, it just keeps going. And we did get a little bit of character, like, we did get, even the resolution for the characters leaves more like things that need to be, finished. Like, Loki finally has the confrontation with Sylvie where he's like, do not kill him because this is not what we want. And she's like, I will kill him because this is what I need. And so they have that moment, but they don't even get to have, like, a resolution for that because she just sends them away, so they never actually resolve that conflict either. Which I know is what you would do on season 1 of a show, right? That's what you would do. Is you wouldn't resolve the will they, won't they on season 1. Of course not. You have to keep that open, or people will get very dissatisfied by that relationship instantly. So, also, Sylvie is just the Enchantress, right? But she's not. I feel like she's just the MCU's version of Enchantress. The fact that she has enchanting powers and she's a blonde-haired green character from Asgard. Like, she's definitely just the Enchantress.
But it's not just that she can enchant stuff. It's that she doesn't do any of Loki's magic. Like, all she does is enchant people. And it's like, isn't she just Enchantress? Maybe she's just... Maybe in her universe, like, she just filled that role. And, like, there never was an Enchantress because she existed.
Well, they never... In the MCU... Amora, which is the name of the Enchantress, Amora, like, as a goddess, never exists in any of the Asgardian stuff. I don't think she ever appears anywhere. So this is, I feel like, just the MCU's version of what the Enchantress is in the comic books, which is Amora.
And it could have been that, like we say that she's Loki, but like she has a completely different origin, right? Like isn't she not a frost giant? I thought she was just like an adopted child.
They didn't say. Okay.
We assume
I
just
she
put
is.
that in my head. But
we assume she. I think she says Laufey-sun at some point. I think she says it.
Did she? Okay.
I think she does. So I think she is. I think she is the daughter of Laufey, but
'Cause,
I don't.
mean, she could have just been raised as Thor's sibling, which would have been, well, that's the role of Loki. So maybe it just got established because she's also, being that she's like the biggest Loki variant, like, because they talk about the multiplanet show, she's the variant, and like Loki is a variant, but she's the variant, and so it could just be that, you know, she isn't Loki, which is why she's such a variant. She just filled the Loki role, maybe, and because that, it became such more of a problem.
I don't know. I feel like because they didn't close almost any doors in this at all. In fact, they opened at the very end. They opened an enormous other one, which is as soon as he was killed, now the multiverse is going off. And when she sent Loki back to the TVA, it wasn't the TVA; it was a TVA. Like the multiverse is already happening, and so like. They've opened up. Oh, so the fact that they introduced that as a concept, that now anything the characters interact with might just be a different universe, or
well, I'm a little worried that they'll start doing what comic books do, and then just use that as open license to do one shots. And I really prefer the continuity strain versus the one shots, where it's like, if we're gonna just make a movie and then it doesn't connect with anything, and it's like, okay, well, that's basically what we used to have. I don't like those.
Well, I think that's what the animated What If series is.
Right, that's what If is supposed to be.
Right.
What If is what was different takes on stuff that has happened. But I really don't want it to be like X-Men movie, but we're not going to interact with any of the stuff from the MCU or be like canon in the MCU. It's just an X-Men movie that's completely separate from the MCU. It's like, well, then what was the point? Like that's not that's what I don't want to happen. I don't want it to be like comic books. It's like, well, which Avengers are you talking about? Are you talking about Avengers like 616 or Avengers 9 or like, oh my god. It's like the whole point is that it's supposed to be one big universe, that everything is like, you know, the same.
That's satisfying. Anyway. That's satisfying, and it gives importance to everything. As soon as you make a multiverse, then anything is fair game, right? You just kill anybody, do anything, fuck it. Like it doesn't matter. There's no investment. Because
everything loses its value. Because like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like so and so only died in that one-off reality. It's like, well, then it had no value. Like it's just cheap. Like you killed a copy. It doesn't matter.
And that's why like superhero deaths are always so cheap and nobody gives a shit because
it's like the equivalent of having a desk drawer full of Infinity Stones.
Right.
Like, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah. Oh, we use those as paperweights. I like that a lot.
Dave has a lot of green ones.
Yeah.
Oh god. Is this the greatest power in the universe?
Yeah.
Just like you didn't know how to take it. Like, I don't know how to respond to this information.
Yep. It's just some 70s, 70s office space.
Mm-hmm.
I love the art style, the decoration style of the TVA. I love, like, there's so many things about that show. I was so satisfied with everything about that show. It was by far for me the best new Marvel show. I was so happy about it. And then the end, I just kept telling myself, oh, just be okay, because I hate bad endings. I hate dissatisfying endings. They make me so mad. And so I just had to tell myself afterwards, it's just like, just pretend that the next 16 months or whatever don't exist, and I'm watching season 2 episode 1 tomorrow, and as long as I can just pretend that, I will be satisfied by Loki. But
it's also a lot different now that you don't have to worry about Loki getting canceled, right? Like there's no way Loki 2 doesn't come out. Like, as where with other TV shows like Firefly, like you never know what's going to happen. They could fire the director and something completely different would happen. But like in the MCU like continuity, we know that even if they replace the people behind it, there was a plan in place, and that plan will generally get followed. Like, we don't have to worry about like the Star Wars problem of there's no one guy in charge of everything that knows what the fuck's supposed to happen. Yeah. It's like,
well, the Star Wars problem is funny. The Star Wars movie problem was exactly that. But then the Star Wars series is exactly the opposite. They just like these two guys. No one else. Yeah. Fuck off. These two guys. And then it goes, and everyone went, okay. And now they're hand over fist, right? Yeah. Money hand over fist. Acclaim hand over fist. Just because they have because as it turns out, if you give creative control to a very small amount, like 1 or 2 very competent people, you can make a very, very, very strong product over and over and over and over again. That's modern Disney filmmaking in general. But they didn't do that formula with Star Wars. You're precisely correct.
So apparently, there's like one woman that was in charge of like the sequel movies, the sequel trilogy.
Oh, really?
Like
Wait, with the
7 through 9,
uh-huh.
I guess. There was like one woman that was like the creative director of those, and someone was bashing her at the store, and I, intentionally being the inciter of riots I said, why would you be mad at somebody for making the best Star Wars trilogy? and so that obviously started a conversation, and it was like, if you actually think about it, like in 20 years, I think the 3 newest movies are actually going to be considered the best, because they're going to hold up so well to like the next generation past us. Because the only reason that the original trilogy is so beloved is because of nostalgia. If they came out today, they'd be okay.
Yeah.
Fact. Like you can hate that, but it's how it works.
Yeah.
It's like nobody going back and watching the original Transformers cartoon gives a shit about it.
Yeah.
Like compared to watching the new movies. Like it's just, they're not that compelling.
Yeah.
They're not interesting visually, which was half the point of what they were good at. It's like, yeah, they were amazing for their time, but their time was 45 years ago.
Right.
Like, get over it.
They were singularities. They're not. It's not something. Like, it's not sacred.
Go watch Highlander now and tell me how good it is. Like, it's complete garbage.
Yeah.
Like, it's an absolute trash film.
To live forever.
It's so bad. But yeah, so I just don't think people realize how much nostalgia is carving the way for them thinking that like the new movies are trash. It's like they're fine. They're really fine.
Yeah. Oh, I'll go on the record and say I think episode 7 was great. Like I really liked episode 7. It was one of the best versions of Star Wars I have seen, which is not like a ceiling of cinematic achievement. It's just it was a really, really good version of a Star Wars story. Mm-hmm. I really, really liked it. And 8 was fine. There was something really wrong with it. And 9 was, I don't know why, it was just like a forum answering session, which was really weird that they tried to do that.
There was like 30 minutes of not great in the 8. And 7, the only problem I had with 7 was how they decided to use, basically anytime they use light speed in the new set of movies in a new and interesting in air quotes way, it's terrible. Like when we'll just jump out of light speed after we get through the planet's shields, but before we hit the planet. I'm like, do you understand how fast light travels?
Yeah.
But then if you like the window of opportunity you have to turn off the FTL is like a steposecond. Like it's beyond minuscule. It's like 1/1 of a second. Like it's
worse than
so
that.
tiny.
Much worse than that, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually way tinier than that. Like it's so infinitesimally small that not even a computer we have could calculate the amount of time you would have, let alone perform the procedure in that amount of time. Like you couldn't even figure out how quickly you would need to do it. Right. And so, yeah, like that was so beyond, laser swords, force wizards, whatever. No, you can't drop out of faster than light travel in that short of a period. But then you stop and think about it, and in all of the movies, when they jump into light speed, it's basically just a teleport, right? But if you actually think about the logic, they're not going into a wormhole. It's not like Battlestar Galactica when it's just a jump and they appear somewhere else. Right. It's not a teleport. They accelerate to faster than light travel and then slow down and stop. Mm-hmm. And this is confirmed in all of the lore. But if you think about like a squadron of X-Wings, there's a guy behind the guy in front.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I'm going to go into light speed. Decide to drop out because every time they show the cockpit, when they drop out, they pull the lever back. It's a manual shutdown. Boom. And the guy behind him that can't even perceive the ship in front of him, let alone how close he is to it, is going to also pull the lever down. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they end up in the correct solar system that they intended to go to is mind-boggling.
And they always come out of light speed within 6 feet of each other.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck?
That's a great point. That's really good.
It makes no fucking sense. And so ever since I realized that, it's been like, okay, whatever, just magic wand it technology, let's move on. I would rather them just magic wand technology it than try and explain it, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good. That discongruity
so
is
stupid.
That discongruity is something that Star Wars is often like. It's often like the example of when you try to take soft sci-fi and turn it into hard sci-fi, and it just crumbles, it falls apart.
Yeah,
don't do that.
It's a really fine line on where you need to stop explaining things.
Yeah,
because you need to just say quantum drive or something, or explain it. Yeah, just magic science words at some point, because we obviously. If we could do these things, it'd be called science movies.
Right.
Like, these are clearly not, like, doable situations.
Right. Like, the MCU is actually a really good example of they keep everything, like, they don't even try to do it. They're just like, quantum. Like,
yeah,
what?
Quantum. We're going to jump
realm.
through a gate point. What's a gate point? It moves us around. And they go through the point. Anybody ever been in space? No. Good. Hits the button. We're gone. Like, no, don't talk about it.
Yeah, they don't even try to explain it. Just do it.
Yeah.
And that's so much better than... It's like, oh, there's shields. How do we get through it? We'll use hyperspeed. You're like, what? Mm-hmm. you start asking questions that you can't answer.
Well, in Episode 7, because when they get the Falcon out of that scrap ship, they fly it through the doors at that hyperspace or hyperspeed. And you're like, what the fuck? You can hit things at hyperspeed? I don't think that ends well. And then they just, you're fine. That's just how that works. So but in the next movie, that's not how that works. At all. Like, they completely change how it works. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's annoying.
Yeah, how hyperspeed, you cease to function, you cease to interact with other matter, but you can interact with electromagnetic fields, apparently, with the force field. Yeah.
Except when you run into another ship, then totally different things happen.
But they've also, they have as a precedent in Star Wars canon of the ships in Rebels that, the Imperial ships that can use electromagnetic waves to pull you out of hyperspeed.
Yeah, the Interceptor or whatever it's called.
Yeah, just like it grabs you and pulls you out.
It's basically a gravity well, It's a gravity well ship.
Right.
Yeah, it's very odd. And so I just wish they would quit trying to fuck with hyperspace.
Yeah.
It's hyperspace, just magic wand it. And then they tried to we can do this. You're the first human being in the history of the universe that's ever decided to use hyperspace in this way.
Yeah.
Including the people that designed hyperspeed. No one has ever done this before. And you're just it'll probably work. I feel like that's not usually what happens when you're it'll probably work.
The fact that, my favorite, when a sci-fi wants to go somewhere in the galaxy, I always just say, please use a wormhole. Just do Guardians of the Galaxy, do, Battlestar. Just make a wormhole. Fold space and time, please. It makes it so easy.
Don't. It's okay. So at what point are you going to explain the inertial dampeners required to accelerate to faster than light speed and stop in 3 miles? The amount of momentum you would have, it would be incalculable.
Also,
you would just punch a hole straight through the fucking planet. Is what you would do.
Also, Chewie, you got to repair the hyperdrive. You're what?
The amount of times it just doesn't work. And you trust this thing to stop you in dear God, the amount of momentum. Oh my God, it's scary to think about. If you actually had the ability to accelerate to faster than light travel in less than 5 seconds, because in Ender's Game in that universe, they talk about how it takes months and months for a ship to get up to light speed or near light speed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes months and months again for them to slow down and turn. It's they can cross great distances, but it takes years.
Right.
And even then, because, it's 80 light years. Okay, well, it'll take us 50 years to get there. Well, okay, so it's going to take us 50 years to get there. But the first 18 months is just getting up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, you just say light speed. It's that's, it's you don't understand the difference in
acceleration
you're talking about. Yeah. It's just the ability to get to that speed is so difficult, even if we had these unrealistic drive engines.
Mm-hmm.
Because in space you have effectively zero friction, right? But even
nearly.
then, even if we had limitless power to dump into some thruster, it would take you so long to get to that speed, assuming no other forces interact.
Also, if you could interact with matter, space is not matterless. It's just matter. It is just it's not
Low-
devoid
low
of matter.
density.
Yeah, it's a very low matter, but it's still density. So if they set the precedent in that the movie by when they launched the capital ship and the other ships and it ripped them apart with the hyperspeed, you're like, oh my god, that means these things interact with matter when they're flying. Jesus, like how does this work?
Like you would just instantly die because at the speed you're moving, you would interact with
tiniest-
such a volume of space
And
that
the
you,
particles
like, there's
would
no
shred
way
you.
there's nothing there. It's impossible.
The particles would shred you instantaneously. So it'd be
Yeah.
so they've already said like there's force fields, and so some ships don't have force shields or hyperdrives, and so that doesn't work. But what I'm waiting for is the episode of The Mandalorian where he says we're gonna have to turn on the hyperdrive with the cab open or some shit like that. I'm going, Jesus. Like
It's okay. He's wearing Beskar.
yeah, Beskar, right? All this is just a really, really long, circuitous way of saying Star Wars is the worst at making a really defined difference between soft and hard sci-fi. And you should just make a choice. Just make a choice which side you're going to be on. Hard sci-fi is really hard to do. You can do it though. You can do it. It's just difficult.
I'm pretty sure Firefly explored more worlds in their 12 episodes in a movie than Star Wars has in like their 300 episodes and like 9 movies. Mm-hmm. No, it's more than that. It's like 11 movies now.
One of the content that did this kind of thing that I thought was really, they just decided to go ahead and just say they could do it is Mass Effect, the game series. They had a really cool, it was just like there were alien ships out there. There were functionally mass drivers, right? It would throw your ship. It would use electromagnetic and gravity waves to just throw your ship super fast. So you didn't actually have to accumulate any acceleration because the thing was only, it was 1-to-1, right? This gravity well went to this gravity slingshot, went to that gravity slingshot. It shot you there, and once you got there, you got caught by the other gravity slingshot, and that's it. So there were jump points that you could get to in the galaxy, and I was like, there you go. That solves a lot of this problem. It doesn't solve the whole problem of being able to travel.
Basically a portal system, right?
Yeah, functionally a portal system,
Yeah.
but it was a mass driver, which is something that they've talked about a lot, being able to use in space. We've talked about theoretically a lot to do things in our own solar system, because mass drivers would be awesome to use on places like Mercury where they have a lot less gravity, right? So but that was not a wormhole solution, but it did the same thing, and it was a really good this is it. Like that's hard enough. Don't have to. We're not gonna. And they never used it as a gun to shoot people. They're just like, no, it doesn't do that. It just does this. It's the only thing you can do with it. I liked it. There's lots of really good sci-fi, harder sci-fi out there too that does great. But for some reason, Star Wars.
Basically, anytime they do light speed, it's just terrible in Star Wars. Everything they do about it, like the fact that it's controlled by a manual lever, is just like beyond comprehension.
Yeah,
it's like, well, first off, we have a ship that has a total cabin space of about 4 cubic meters, and then we're going to somehow have this ship able to propel itself at faster than light travel in less than a second, and also be able to support the power systems on this fucking ship with apparently 9 collapsing stars. Like, I don't know what is fueling this thing. Like, whatever, just doesn't matter. Like that's all easy to disbelieve, but the problem is so I'm just going to use the nav computer to tell me where this planet is, and I'm going to pull this lever to go into light speed, have zero visual or apparently instrument feedback on what I am, and then just slowly push the lever back, and then I'll be where I would. Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Like there's no amount of human reaction time you could ever develop under the most like Twitch-based scenario that you could shut that thing off with a fucking lever and end up anywhere near where you were trying to go. Like, how far does light travel in 1 second? Because I think I read in an article that they tested a bunch of semi-truck drivers, and from visual input that they needed to brake, it took them 1.3 seconds to get their foot on the brake and apply pressure. So, how far does light go in 1 second?
Let's see.
It's got to be tens or hundreds of thousands of miles.
It's 186. It's 186,000 miles per second.
Yeah, you're gonna miss your mark by a bit.
Yeah.
But as long as the other guy was exactly the same slowness pulling the lever down, you won't disintegrate both
Yeah,
of your ships.
that'd be fine.
And then kill everyone in a 100-mile radius on the other side from the shrapnel. Like, what the fuck? You just turned your fucking ship into a space shotgun every time you fly in formation. It's so dumb. It's so idiotically stupid. But it's like, they should have just gotten rid of that in the first one. It's like when they're like, all right, where are we? It's like, we're 3 minutes away. It's like, all right, drop us out of hyperspace. Like, where the fuck? Like, you'd be so far away. Oh my god. All right, I'm going to shut up about this now. I find it very infuriating. And this is actually the biggest problem I have with all of episode 7. It's just the fact that he was gonna turn off the hyperdrive inside the shield. I'm like, what? It's like, did no one know how fast they're going? Like, it's not like you're gonna pull the e-brake and turn. Like, where are you gonna stop? Alright. I need to get a lozenge because I've been screaming for like the last hour.
Yeah. I'm going to go so I can get some rest if I'm going to be up there tomorrow.
Alright, let's go ahead and stop this.
Okay.
You ready?
Oh, shit. Give me a second. My computer's...
Oh, shit.
I misclicked. I went to click Audible, and it's giving me something else, and I want to make sure it's not.
Don't worry, I'm just uploading my hard drive to Dropbox.
I actually clicked Dropbox and upload a whole computer. Whoops. Sorry. Give me a second.
I just remember every time we talk about this, and if people don't remember, I had Parker install Dropbox so he could send me files. And he accidentally tried to back up his hard drive because he clicked the wrong button. And so I just imagine this 8-bit Parker standing with like the Mario pose, feet pointed opposite directions. He's just like leaning down with like a PC on his back. He's trying to shove it up into a little floaty cloud above him. And he's like, "Urgh, urgh." And it's like, why can't I do anything? Every time you click anywhere, it just plays this little 8-bit image. You're trying to shove your computer into a cloud. Like, I got it.
Oh, shit.
Oh my god. Every time we talk about Dropbox, this comes back to me.
Yeah.
And I can't stop laughing.
It's pretty awesome.
Oh my god. I'm gonna draw this image. It's gonna be amazing.
Okay. I'll see it.